Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
One Sunday morning, the pastor noticed little Alex standing in the foyer of the church staring up at a large plaque. It was covered with names and small American flags mounted on either side of it. The 6-year-old had been staring at the plaque for quite some time, so the pastor walked up and stood beside the little boy, and he quietly said, "Good morning, Alex." "Good morning, Pastor," he replied, still focused on the plaque. "Pastor, what is this?" The pastor replied, "Well, son, it's a memorial to all the young men and women who died in the service." Soberly, they stood together, staring at the large plaque, and finally little Alex's voice, barely audible and trembling with fear, asked, "Which service, the 8 or the 9:30? Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith. God bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning on a Monday. Oh, good morning. Thank you, Kate, for dropping by and singing God Bless America this morning. I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And let's not forget some of our great advertisers, too, like Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. And also our friends at Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today, 734-6969. Right now, we say good morning to Gina.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well. It's Monday already.
Yeah, aren't you happy?
Man, the weekend just flew by way too quick.
Yeah, you were building cars, weren't you?
Yeah, actually, we were working on a truck and doing a wet sand so we could apply the final clear coat.
A wet sand?
A wet sand. Yeah, you can wet sand it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you're trying to eat between bites on the radio, aren't you?
You could tell, huh?
Yeah, I could.
It's a ham and cheese croissant.
A ham and cheese croissant. Pardon me, would you have any Grey Poupon?
Actually, I've got some Cholula.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Actually, it is.
Do we have a pledger?
We have Al on for the pledge and Michael on for the weather.
Very good. Al, with the pledge, please, sir.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, by the way, Al, I want to say this while you're on the air real quick, before we go to Michael Rogers' weather, and make it real short in your response. We are very saddened with the closing coming up in a few days on the 15th of JB's in Burley. I talked to Daniel, and believe me, we're all pulling for him in the future and hope that he gets another endeavor, but our thanks to everything he's done for Lunch Bunch over the years. Thank you very much, Daniel and JB's.
Yeah, amen to that. I mean, we started her and we'll finish her somewhere or another.
Al, God bless you, and I've got some news. Stay tuned. Next hour, I'm going to have that news for you about what's happening with Lunch Bunch, and all things are good. God has blessed us. Thank you very much, Al.
Okay.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, what a blessing it is to have the world's greatest weatherman on the program this morning, brought to you by Rock Creek Growers on the corner of Maxine Lane and Irene Streets in Kimberly. Here's Michael Rogers' weather.
Morning, everybody. The start of a brand spanking new week of a perfect fall day. It's going to be nice and sunny, 78 for the high, overnight low right around 54, 81 for the high tomorrow, more of the same, a lot of sun and very little clouds. far as our weather for the week, we have a chance of thunderstorms that will take place beginning Wednesday, going all the way through Friday. Right now, it's looking like a slight chance, but nice way to start off on Monday with a nice sunny day and nice comfortable temperatures. So enjoy the day, enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
There's the best weatherman in the world, Michael Rogers, weather.com. Brought to you by Rock Creek Growers on the corner of Maxine Lane and Irene Streets in Kimberly. 35% off all their plant materials, and check out all the fall grasses. Everything you need to beautify your home and property is right there at Rock Creek Growers with the Anderson family. Super nice people on the corner of Maxine Lane and Irene Streets in Kimberly. Thank you very much. I want to remind everybody that we are going to be over at Ramsey Heating and Electric live for our Patriots Day and Salute to Farmers on Wednesday this week. But earlier in the morning, and I really want your help on this, folks, earlier in the morning, George Mass is going to have his absolutely huge, great big lunch trailer sitting out in front of Ramsey's with all the flags and everything else, and he's going to be serving breakfast. And it's going to be a biscuits and gravy, coffee, milk, and orange juice breakfast for just $3. And all the proceeds go to the 3rd annual Zeb at the Ranch Christmas for Kids and Youth for Liberty. God bless George and God bless Ramsey's. Please, before you go to work, come on down and go to that breakfast. And please have fun with us on this Wednesday. Don't forget Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Oh, I went in there the other day and I picked up all my clothes. And I mean, Kevin just kept putting plastic on and plastic on and plastic on and plastic on. I mean, I had all kinds of shirts, Wranglers, everything there. And they all came out looking brand spanking new. That's what happens. You take your old rumply crumplies in there and they'll come back looking brand new right off the showroom floor. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You stop in and see those great folks today. And somebody else that I'm very, very high on with the business that they provided for our business here at Zeb at the Ranch, and that's, of course, SafeLink Internet. SafeLink high-speed wireless internet. Wow. I mean, they've got packages for you, professional installation. I can back that up. These people really know their business, and you call Shane today and get on a program with them. No credit checks, no contracts required. They'll absolutely treat you the best. SafeLink Internet, 677-8000. That number again, 677-8000. Call them today. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Ladies and gentlemen, in the morning on this program, we try to get into all the news that's happening around the world and the United States and locally. And right now this morning, I've got to tell you that I am very, very worried. I don't mean that for theatrics. I don't mean that to start off and get a slug of telephone calls. I'm just very, very worried. This president, Obama, is basically treating a very dire, very sincerely sinister situation in Syria as if he's on the campaign trail. And I'm sitting here listening to the news this morning to regather some of my notes for the weekend, and here's a man that's out trying to solidify a vote by Congress to literally bomb and cause mayhem in a part of the world that we have no friends anyway. We really don't have any allies except Israel. That's it. And the people that he may be trying to help are bad guys too. Now, I'm no pacifist in any way, shape, or form. And to say that I would be on this situation would be really a stupid statement. But would you please tell me if the rebels don't like us, and possibly they might incur the chemical weapons, and we don't have anybody really that we know that we're going to be helping, and we bomb over there just to get their attention, and indiscriminate bombing is going to kill people that might not have anything to do with this horrendous conflict. I don't understand. I do not understand. Why do this? And why publicize the threat of doing and or going to war and say who you're going to hit, how you're going to hit, where you're going to hit, would somebody please tell me when the top generals, top past military people from our nation sit there on talk shows and go, I don't know, I don't get it. Would somebody explain it to me? Obama is going to go on television with many newscasts. He's going to be answering many questions. He's going to be doing many press scenarios. Why? What are we going to gain? Somebody call me right now, please, and tell me what are we going to gain by going over and bombing Syria and possibly igniting the fuse on World War III. Caller, I appreciate your call. I'm going to be right with you. Stand by, please. I want to remind everybody, Ramsey Heating and Electric are going to be over there this Wednesday for a 3-hour remote, and it's going to be in tribute to Hats Off to Farmers and Patriots Day. I want you to come by for the big breakfast at 7 a.m. in the morning, and then we'll be on the air at 8:06. Please come by. Over 57 years in business of serving you with all your electrical needs. These are absolutely wonderful people, and it's just going to be an outstanding remote. It does. We got giveaways. We're going to have door prizes. We're going to have interesting people on the air. I urge you to come by Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley on Wednesday. Going to be ripping good. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
The big boy in the White House doesn't realize that we're going to be sucked into a major conflict here. The Soviet Union is backing Assad. Now, the surface-to-air missiles are already set up. They're already going to plan on shooting down our planes, and we're going to get sucked into a major conflict.
What good? Tony, now, you've been around the horn once or twice in your life, and you've served our country. What good is going to come of our getting involved in an armpit of the world, Syria? And I'm being very blunt. I don't like Syria. I don't like anything to do with Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, etc. And it's almost like jumping into a pile of quicksand. Am I wrong, or what's going on here? What good will it do?
Right. To those people over there, murder and mayhem are just playtime for these people. Now, pretty soon, we've got enough wounded veterans over there that came back with no arms and no legs, and for what?
I can't answer that.
This is going to be another Afghanistan for us in Iraq.
No, Tony, I disagree. I think, honestly, it's going to be much more severe. I think it could trigger the Armageddon for the end of the world as we know it. I honestly believe that, because we are going in with this audacity, this pugnacious attitude like we can correct the wrongs and the ills in a country where we don't even know who the good guys are.
Well, some years ago, Israel came out and said if they were in a desperate situation and no win-win situation, they would go nuclear. And I do believe they meant what they said.
I would not argue that. Tony, I appreciate your calls as always. We have others in line. Thank you very much.
Okay,
appreciate it.
you.
God bless you. Caller, I'll be right there. Do not forget Valley White Home and Ranch. And they also are going to have a great big tribute to Patriots Day. You do not want to miss it. It's going to be over there at Wednesday. You can stop over, and they're going to start with lunch. And George Mass is going to run from Ramsey. He's going to run over to Valley White and set up, and they're going to have some super fantastic buys on everything in the store. I'm telling you, you do not want to miss all the fun that's going to be going on Wednesday. You just can't afford not to be there and celebrate at Valley White Home and Ranch. I talked to Steve the other day. He's excited about everything that's going on. They're going to have special buys on everything in the store. You check it out at 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Valley White Home and Ranch. Absolutely everything for the farm, the ranch, and, of course, the family. And you can buy hamburgers for $1 or 2 hot dogs for $1. Holy smokes, it's going to be ripping good fun at noon at Valley White Home and Ranch on Wednesday. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. I think that you're asking the wrong question about what we want or what Obama wants out of Syria. Ask what Soros wants out of Syria.
You know, but Helen, here's a point of interest to you. Let's forget the name George Soros just for a minute, and let's concentrate on his... Well, I know, but wait a minute, Helen, give me a break. Let's concentrate on a great big organization with his name behind it called MoveOn.org. MoveOn.org has purchased advertisements in condemnation of Obama and what he's trying to do politically over in Syria. So now I'm starting to scratch my head and go, wait a minute, what's going on here?
You know, that's just exactly a pile of what a horse has gone through and left.
Well,
It's all muck and baloney. They're trying to confuse us with that hogwash.
Well, Helen, here's the situation that we can absolutely emphatically agree on. Is that we might nitpick about who's to blame and what's to blame, etc., but the whole thing boils down to why. Why does Obama all of a sudden want to become so pugnacious, and why does Obama want to do and ignite the fuse, like I said earlier, that could be the bomb that goes off for World War III? This man is such a liar, such a phony from what he campaigned on for his first scenario as president, damning Bush for his involvement in Iraq, damning Bush for going after the weapons of mass destruction. Is this man doing anything less? As a matter of fact, he's doing so much more.
Yes, he is. He's phony baloney right from the word go, and I think he has got his eye on world domination.
Now, there is a subject that I'm going to be doing some more segments on next week, and some of the people I've got lined up to talk about world domination and possibly Obama being the world leader. Not so far-fetched, my dear lady that I love dearly. You take care of yourself.
Don't it make you sick to your stomach to think of him being a world leader?
Well, you've either got another phone going off or your alarm clock's going off, one of the two.
It's the phone.
All right, God bless you. Have a good day.
Later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Calls welcome 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. He is blitzkrieging the senators. He's blitzkrieging the House. He's blitzkrieging the American voters. And why? Why are we doing this? He is trying to swing the GOP senators like Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, that I've lost all respect for, Susan Collins of Maine, Saxy Chambliss of Georgia, Bob Corker, Tennessee, Kelly Ayotte of New Hampshire, Deb Fisher of Nebraska, and today he's going to do face-to-face interviews with 6 networks this is interesting, this line here, where reporters might prod him to outline the scope and limits of his planned aerial intervention into Syria's civil war. Might? What kind of asinine jackass reporters are working for the media if they're not absolutely going to pin him down on the limits and scope of what he wants to do? What kind of absolute stupidity is going on right now in news media that they would not pin him down on the scope and the limits of his planned aerial intervention? What? They might? I will say that most of the media has the guts of an angleworm. They're cowards, and they shrivel and wilt at the sight of Obama coming onto a stage or a podium. No courage. And tomorrow on Tuesday evening, he's going to give a national address. He's going to be looking you and I and his teleprompter in the eye and pushing the bombing of Syria. How are you going to respond? Are you going to sit there and go, oh, well, if the president thinks it's good, well, I'll certainly go along? What are your thoughts? This is tragic. This is serious. Caller, I'll be right with you. Do not go away. I want to remind you about our dear friends. Got a brand new sponsor on this morning, an advertiser. We want to say thanks to Rain for Rent, 134 South, 600 West, Highway 27 in Paul with Reinke. They've got great Reinke rebates for this fall. You better believe it. And they've got all the sales and service of Reinke pivots. I'm telling you, they got sales professionals over there like Frank Jensen and Skip Hilton and Brooks West. They got it all at Rain for Rent. Great people. 134 South, 600 West, Highway 27 in Paul. Give them a call. And that's, of course, with Reike, the leader in irrigation, 438-5065. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. I actually have a golf ball that says Rain for Red on it. They're advertising now. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that in. But the reason I called is that we support the president only so far as he supports the Constitution. And, everybody says, well, we support the president regardless. He's the chief commander, and he should know it. He's all-knowing, all-seeing, got all this intelligence and stuff. This guy's not intelligent at all. He's going to try to sell, refrigerators to us Eskimos tomorrow.
Wait a minute, Adrian. You said something that I want to back up on, and I want to check on your verbiage there. We support the president on all things, basically, is what you said, to paraphrase. I can't. Wait a minute. Hear me out, because I'm on your side. This man is absolutely, in my opinion, non-supportable, because he's absolutely taking an agenda, his personal ideology, and he's warping and twisting and shaping and twisting the Constitution to suit what his agenda is, and I will not support this man.
Well, absolutely not. I mean, he does everything that's unconstitutional. He uses all the alphabet agencies, EPA, so forth, to implement his agenda through executive orders and initiatives and so forth. Clinton did the same thing. Bush did an awful lot of it, too. I mean, it's not just Democrats, but I can guarantee you, folks, we better get that Constitution out and read it. They're not studying it in school, so our kids don't know and understand what's going on.
That's true. And I want to say something else to you, and I want to comment, because I got a hard break coming up in 1 minute. This man right now, Obama, is getting us into a quicksand situation in a part of the world that is the most dangerous part of the world, and the Bible prophecies of Armageddon and the end of the world in that region. I am scared this morning. You go ahead and tell me I have nothing to worry about. I don't think you will. But I am very worried about this man and his insidious plans to get us deeper involved.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the whole thing is we're getting involved in all these civil wars over there, and what have we accomplished other than getting a lot of people killed, thousands wounded permanently for life? Yeah, it's just, we have no business being over there. Even the military people, if you saw some of the clips on the news, they're protesting doing anything in Syria because they can see what this is going to end up in. And China and Russia are aligned against us, so this is a good way to really stick it in the face of our so-called, allies over there.
Yeah, but wait. One quick answer here, real fast, and then I got to go. Real short answer. Why? Why would he be doing this? What good is going to come out of this?
Well, it's all about creating a one-world government because, we have to bow ourselves down. And also, we give up, when we get in war, we give up liberty for security.
There you go. There you go.
Definitely drive up our oil prices, as you've commented on many times before.
You have hit the nail right on the head. We will give up our freedoms and our rights in a time of war. Adrian, spot on. Thank you for a very good analysis this morning. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, have a good day. Bye.
Adrian is right on the money. I honestly think that this man, in the middle of his now second tenure as president, will do anything to take total control. Travel Loop Supply, let's not forget Travel Loop Supply and Jim McCall, 1050 West 203 South Hayburn, 438-8730. They've got the Lincoln cordless grease guns and all the grease to go with it. And they can clean your air filters. You heard Jim on the air last Thursday talking about this. They can clean your air filters. They're guaranteed, and I'll guarantee you that it'll save you money. So please get a hold of them today. And they got Bubba ropes. They've got all the Bubba ropes. In case you get stuck at harvest, you're out of there. You better believe it. Travel Loop Supply, 1050 West 203 South of Hayburn, 438-8730. It is time for the Pacific Steel and Recycling Capital Press Ag Minute. And Pacific Steel and Recycling at 320 West Main in Burley. We'll be back with more right after this.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly.
A string of heavy, isolated storms brought timely moisture to farmers and ranchers throughout southern Idaho amid an otherwise dry summer. An unusual prolonged pattern of tropical moisture originated from the Gulf of California caused the wet spell, explained the National Weather Service meteorologist Dan Vail. The rainfall has extended the irrigation season in some areas, while dryland growers in the east say the extra moisture will help fall crops germinate. Ranchers say the rains have promoted new growth in grasses and moistened existing forage, making it more palatable. That will forestall the feeding of hay. With the Capital Press Ag Minute, this is Hannah Brous.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West's Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and capitalpress.com.
Wonderful people at Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley. Don't forget, if you are trying to recycle old car batteries and computers and electronics, old cars and trucks, everything, they pay top dollar for scrap iron, tin, aluminum cans, computers, everything. All you have to do is just give them a call. They've been serving the Mini-Cash area now for over 30 years. Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley. Really nice people. Honestly, folks, I appreciate all the, I'll call them the old-timers, the everyday callers on our program. I appreciate their comments. But what about you folks that are sitting out there this morning? Maybe some of the moms that have just taken the kids to school or put them on the school bus. What about some of you folks that maybe are farming, or maybe some of you folks that are just now on the way to your job? Don't you feel the trepidation? Don't you feel the fear? Don't you feel the concerning attitude that's going on and permeating itself in this country? I've heard figures anywhere from 80 to 85% of America does not want Obama to get involved in a war in Syria. 80 to 85%. Even if it was 70 to 75% that don't want to go in there, or even less. The majority wants him to stay out of the cesspool. And they are also concerned, our legislators are concerned, but where's the backbone there, that any attack could help radical Muslim groups, including forces affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood and Al-Qaeda, to seize control of Syria's armory of chemical weapons to use against Israel, Europe, and the United States. Who are we supporting over there? Who's going to link arms with us and say, you come on in and we'll get this and we'll make sure that they're taken care of and destroyed? Nobody. Nobody. And we're just going to blatantly go in and, according to Obama, have a very precise surgical strike on what? Now that he's already broadcasted. I have never heard of anything so stupid in my life. To sit back and say, weeks and weeks in a row, in front of the actual possible attack, well, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. All you're doing is giving the enemy, okay, well, we got plenty of time. We'll move them over here in this mountain, we'll dig this hole and put them in there. They don't know, etc., etc. I never have heard of anything so absolutely brainless in my life. And what is there to gain? What is there to gain? The scale and purpose of the planned aerial offensive is completely unclear. Somebody out there, and I wish that there was a liberal that supports Obama and everything he does, that would have the courage, and of course now that's asking for too much, to call and amplify to me what the sense in this strike would be. What is the sense in this strike? Really? And don't give me, 1,400 people, which is so sad. And my heart goes out to these people. But there's been over 100,000 die en masse already for the last 2.5 years. And now all of a sudden Obama's going to get on TV tomorrow night and just get all teary-eyed and look you and I in the face and say, well, we got to do this. We've just got to do this. It's going to scare Assad, and he won't touch anybody again. Why, he will just back up and look at his whole card, and he'll be a good little boy. Baloney. Where are you people? Are you worried about this, or am I the only one? I do not want to be living in the same kind of an atmosphere that was permeated back during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Oh, I remember that vividly. I remember going upstairs in my room and listening to my mom and dad as the fear took over our household, as it did millions and millions and millions of Americans, not knowing whether Nikita Khrushchev and the Russians would back down, and if the end of the world as we knew it then with nuclear arms all of a sudden would start dropping on the United States and Russia and Cuba and the destruction of humanity. You want to live like that again? Because as I'm sitting here and you don't have a definitive as to who the good guys, bad guys, what's going to happen, who's going to take what, where the chemical weapons are, how they're going to be safely secured, and you're going to make threats about going in and bombing somebody? Please call me and tell me. Where is the common sense? This president doesn't have any. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Again, I want to remind you, Valley White Home and Ranch, they're going to have a huge, proud to be American Patriots Day celebration. You better believe it. George Mass is going to be over there at noon cooking his famous burgers. Nobody cooks a burger like George. And hot dogs and free Pepsi, and all the proceeds go to the Rupert POWMIA. And in the store at Valley Wide, they're going to have 20% off on cinched jeans and 10% off on all the fishing equipment. Holy buckets. And the first 150 people who spend $10 or more in the store will receive an American flag and a pocket knife. Oh, yeah. Valley White Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert this Wednesday. I guess maybe I'm the only one that's really worried right now about this, and I just don't understand why America in general isn't in an outrage. And the phone lines to the White House, and a phone line to all of our congressmen, whether it's Labrador and Simpson for our state, whether it's our senators like Crapo and Risch. And by the way, Jim Risch, I think, should be commended, because they had a full page story about him in the paper yesterday, and the headline was, Risch had voice while others stammered. How true. How true. I listened to him the other night, and he had questions, and he absolutely was demanding answers. And he's one of the very few, instead of going in lockstep with this absolutely criminal administration. Doing something, Jim Risch said, is much riskier than doing nothing. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
The wife and I both called Risch, Crapo, and Simpson. And the way I feel, it does no good.
Dal, you're a dear friend of mine, and we can be really straight across the board with each other. But you did it. You did it because it's the American thing to do. And I'm not ever going to tell anybody not to call. I'm not going to tell anybody it doesn't do any good. Because we got to have a voice. We got to have an outlet somehow. Personally, in my own opinion, I'd rather look these guys in the eye. And Mike Simpson was in town the other night. I did not go because, quite frankly, I was already preordained on another subject matter that I had to take care of. But I think looking them in the eye at these meetings, whether they come home for the Lincoln Day banquets or whatever, Dal, people have got to spend the money to go to these banquets, walk up to them and look them in the eye and say, Mr. Congressman, are you listening to me or not?
Yeah. We called, and all we got out of them was, I will pass it along to your representative.
Yeah.
That's all you get. What are you going to do to bring them and make them understand?
I wished I had an answer for you, Dal, because I'm at the end of my rope with politicians. I'm at the end of my rope with this administration. I'm at the end of my rope trying to figure out what more we can do because they're not listening to us.
Yeah, I agree with you.
God bless you, my dear friend.
Okay.
Thank you. That man is really, really a very nice man. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, the other day, I routinely call back to Washington, D.C. As soon as there's an issue, I just get on the horn, and people say, well, do you ever work? You're always on the thing. And I says, I can get this stuff done if you take the time. It takes 2 minutes, 5 minutes out of your day. I usually work till 8 or 9 o'clock at night anyway, so it doesn't matter. But you see, he's right. Even the only way you can get them to pay any attention is to get in their face. It's just like the other day at Maury's Steakhouse. Before Simpson had his get-together and your $25 fee, there was a cocktail hour. And I says, maybe we should just bag the cocktail hour at the Lincoln Day banquet. We don't need to go in and take pictures with the elitist representatives. They need to get their behind out here and talk to the people and talk to us instead of let's drink in and kind of take the edge off the situation. At this point, if we don't do something soon, we're done. And
Randy, why is it?
Emergency with these representatives, I don't sense it. I don't see it. They just seem like it's all right.
Yeah.
It ain't all right. And the other day when I called back to Washington, D.C., when the switchboard is buried, when the major switchboard that you call into is buried, I always just hope that somehow that the good people like us are hammering the hell out of these people, and that we are actually getting something through. But you see, you wonder what we've got to do to get these guys, like you say, grab them by the necktie and say, listen, we're out here busting our rear ends. People are struggling. We hear lies every day. When are you going to do something?
Yeah, and that's the key right there. That's the key right there, is that we've got to tell these people they work for us. We do not work for them. They get their money because of us, and I'm sick and tired of not having representation. I want to just throw this at you real quick. Obama's chief of staff, Dennis McDonough, was on television all weekend long, and listen to this and then make a short comment because I've got other things I've got to get on here, Randy. But McDonough insisted that any strike would be big enough to ensure proper punishment to Assad for allowing the use of chemical weapons. Proper punishment? It's like, now I'm going to slap you on the hands, you go sit in the corner for a timeout, and I know that you'll never do this again. How dumb are we?
Well, it's such a joke, and the fact that they're so pressing so hard to get this accomplished, it's like if you unseat Assad and the Muslim Brotherhood slips in, that's what Obama really wants. The whole area is just unsettled, and it's like you say, this thing is a cracker box ready to explode, and we never consult Israel.
I guess. I know, man. I'm just frustrated this morning. I thought the phones would be lit up and we'd have all the phones just absolutely jumping off the hook with people outraged over the idiocy and the absolute unintelligent information that this Obama is trying to push forth to the American scene, especially tomorrow night on his broadcast. I am incensed at this man, and I just absolutely do not want any support for his war whatsoever. Andy, I got to run. Thank you very much.
Thanks. See ya.
I do not want any support for this man. None. Caller, I'll be right with you. We've got to do a real quick weather update, and it's brought to everybody this hour by Sportsman's Warehouse, 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls, with Reese Widmeyer. Oh, they've got everything. The great indoors for those who love the great outdoors. And don't forget, they're having a select clearance on clothing and footwear, 50% off on select clearance of clothing and footwear until September 15th. 50% off? You better get in there to Sportsman's Warehouse in Twin Falls. Here's Michael Rogers with a weather update.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Set up a brand spanking new week of you, me, and some nice, perfect, cool fall weather. Sunny today, 78 for the high. How about that? 54 for the overnight low, 81 for the high tomorrow. Got a chance of thunderstorms is going to be taking place on Wednesday going all the way through Friday. But what a nice day to start off the beginning of the work week with clear, sunny skies and nice, cool temperatures. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you by Sportsman's Warehouse, 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls. The great indoors for those who love the great outdoors. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Jen Zeb.
Yes, sir.
I was watching Judge Janine the other night, Saturday night, and she had that Colonel, I think his name was Colonel Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
One of the real gruff voice, he can hardly talk. And she said, what happens if we go in there and slap him on the hands? And he says, you're going to piss him off. That's the exact words he said. And she laughed and she says, yes, I'm afraid we will. They're not going in there to really do us any good at all. We don't need your oil. We got our own. We don't need to go in there and do somebody else's work when Russia and Iran are backing this stuff. There's our problem. Russia and Iran again.
Why in the world are we being duped into thinking this is a necessity? Over 100,000 people have been killed in the last 2.5 years by this absolutely devil of a man, Assad. And all of a sudden now, after the lines have been crossed so many times, Obama's going to try to be pugnacious and say that he's going to be the world protector and go in there with a targeted, consequential, limited attack against Assad forces, but he's going to have the punishment. He'll know not to do it again. Are you kidding me?
No, I mean, it's the same thing, you know yourself. It happened in Korea. It happened in Vietnam. We did not go in there to win it. We went in there to be duped, and we was duped by our great friend, United States, or that USSR.
I got to ask you something, because you've been in the military, and here's something I've got to ask you a question about. They said the other day, and John Kerry kind of backed around the question and pushed his chair around it and wouldn't answer it when it came to boots on the ground. Let me give you a scenario real quick. Give me a short answer. What happens if all of a sudden they do the bombing and they find out where the chemical weapons are stored, and they know that they've got to have a service strike to go in and get them? And are they going to use our military teams, our SEAL teams? That, to me, constitute boots on the ground, and then we're really in trouble.
It's still going to be boots on the ground if you're going to have pilots flying them F-16s over there trying to pinpoint bombing. You're going to have boots, you know, for the pilots and that. Sure, it's going to happen because they're standing back there like it did in Iraq. There was weapons of mass destruction, but guess what they found later? The F-16s, and that was buried out in the desert along with the weapons.
Absolutely.
So this old crap, they're just trying to pull the wool over our eyes. People, get a hold of Crapo on that, because I'd like to know if he's voted for Hagel and that Kerry outfit.
Absolutely.
It's the two stupidest people I've ever seen in my life for a Secretary of Defense and a Secretary of State.
I can't argue that, Al. Thank you so much. I appreciate your words.
Have a good one.
Appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a little news, and caller, stand by. This is very important. I have this news that I want to put out for the benefit of our lunch munchers. Yes, JB's is closing, and our very best to Daniel and the rest of the crew. It's going to be closing this next weekend on the 15th. But we have stepped up to the plate, and we have made arrangements to move our lunch munch on the 26th over to Perkins Restaurant and Bakery, 800 North Overland in Burley. My dear friend John Webster, I absolutely believe we're going to have a great time over there. I urge each and every one of you to support us at Lunch Bunch the end of this month on the 26th at Perkins Restaurant and Bakery. Great restaurant, great bakery, great pies, all there for you. It's delicious. We certainly appreciate them stepping up to the plate and helping us with the new location for Zeb's Lunch Bunch at Perkins Restaurant and Bakery in Burley. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Zeb, did Simpson really have that thing last week? Because I tried to get a ticket to it, and I couldn't. They wouldn't ever call me back. I went over there on Thursday and stayed till 6:30, and nobody showed up.
Well, now, sir, you have me at a disadvantage here because I can't answer that question due to the fact that I was not there also. I was busy and gone out of the area, and I can't honestly answer that question. I think that if you want to call the powers that be, some of the Cassia County or Southern Idaho area Republican leadership and ask that question. I don't know. I assumed that they had that meeting, but there again, sir, I'm only going by what I had heard. I was not there personally.
Yeah, and like I say, I tried calling all the week before to get a ticket. Not that I wanted a ticket, but I did want to ask some questions. People over in Twin tell me that he did not have any, he was not going to schedule any town hall meetings this year because that was just took too much of his time, and he shouldn't, he had too much going on. I asked how he was leaning on this Syria thing, and they told me that he was still looking at it. But my take on that is John Boehner came out for it, and he backs Boehner on it, almost everything that happened. So that was my take on it.
Now, let me ask you a question, sir, before you leave, because you just said something that really piqued my interest. Simpson made the quote, unquote, that it took too much of his time to have town meetings. Took too much of whose time? His time is our time. He works for us. And, there's the demand factor in my voice. I don't want to hear Mike Simpson say it takes too much of his time, because he works for us and he should be providing the time to inform us as to what's going on so that we can ask the questions of what he's doing, why he's doing it, and why he's voting the way he is. I'm offended by that. Are you?
I am offended by it, and like I say, when I talk to his people, and I call all of them, but they tell me over there that it was just, he just felt that he just didn't need town hall meetings, and that he had better things to do. And I asked him, well, we're the ones that put him in there. We would like answers, and he won't answer them, and so. Like I say, I don't know.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I just made a note, and coming up in the spring at the Lincoln Day banquet, I personally am going to corner him on that face-to-face, eyeball to eyeball, and ask him why he thinks his time is of more relevance than answering our questions.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
God bless you for your call. That makes me mad. It's not his time. It's our time. The worries of his constituents, the concerns of his constituents. When you're talking about going to war, I'm not talking about a little puddle jumping deal. Oh, well, we'll just throw a bomb in there. It'll be over. Don't worry about it. No, this is not the case here. And if that's Simpson's attitude, like he doesn't want to take the time to answer at town hall meetings and everything, by God, he'd better. He'd better. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. The arrogancy of politicians drives me nuts. Why? Why do they think that they can do as they wish and basically treat us like their subjects? They will do as I wish. Can't handle this. I mean, this just bothers me so bad that the arrogancy, the complete elevated atmosphere of their personality when they get elected to a national office. No! You'll take the time and answer our questions. We're the ones that put you in that office. Don't forget, great big tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. I'm talking a huge tire sale. They've got light truck and SUV Wildcat AT2 tires on sale, starting at just $117.15. Smooth, quiet ride, absolutely a tire that will get you safe driving miles for your pickup and SUV. Don't forget the Ultra Z900 passenger car tire on sale now. 30-day ride guarantee, just $109.67. All of the tires on sale and absolutely will do the job for you for your safe driving. And don't forget the best in brake protection, the best in brake value service, and of course all the batteries, the shocks, the front ends, alignments, everything else at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. They are the best. Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Lane and Rupert, John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. You brought up about the arrogance. This Wednesday evening, the Twin Falls Republican Central Committee at the downtown at the city council chambers. Tom Luna is going to be there trying to defend or pointing out about Common Core. Mm-hmm. Now, there's something people should be really concerned about if you got kids or grandkids. It's at 7 o'clock this Wednesday, Twin Falls City Council chambers downtown. And, the problem is these guys, they get up there, they get brainwashed on something, and then they are so arrogant they will not back down from their position. And the evidence is just so overwhelming that Common Core is dumbing down our kids, and there's a nationwide effort to stop Common Core, but it's almost already in place before most people knew what the heck was going on.
Yeah.
So come out and tell this guy to stop pushing this socialist claptrap stuff at our kids.
Well, I want to just stay on, I agree with what you're saying, and I'll keep promoting that as far as going to that meeting, but I just want you to make a short comment here. I got another call waiting, but the arrogancy and the acting like an individual when they get back there representing us on a national level, that offends me. They should still be listening to us and make the time for these meetings to answer questions.
Well, that's true. Absolutely. When they won't hold a town hall meeting, won't answer this and that, they'll put out their letter, but they won't actually get into a debate over the issues. They just put out their point. And Boehner, has got everybody brainwashed, I guess, back there, or a lot of them. But most of Congress is opposed to this. You're going into Syria, which is a good deal.
Absolutely. I got to run. I got to run and take that other call, Adrian. But I appreciate your point that you brought up. Thank you again, sir. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks a lot. Bye.
Caller, good morning. Last call. I got 1 minute left. Go ahead.
Yeah, Simpson's voting record ought to be enough to not send him back to Washington D.C. He isn't arrogant. There's no question about it. He's been back there too long. He don't figure he has to answer to anybody.
I just don't understand why it's almost an imposition when the general public wants to ask questions and get answers from paid political people that we put in office. They should absolutely be turning around in their swivel chair saying, what do I need to do to help my constituents, instead of the constituents acting like we need to serve them. I'm not serving anybody, Fred, I'll tell you that.
That's right. Well, that's, like I say, he's been back there too long.
All right, got to run to the news, my friend. God bless you. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. God bless, Fred. Thank you.
Okay.
I got to take off right now and go to the news, but I want to bring you up to speed as to what's happening for the rest of the day. We've got Frosty Woldridge coming on at 9:06, Attorney Michael Norton with the ADF at 9:30. You do not want to miss Attorney Gail Trotter back in Washington, D.C., discussing this mess with Syria at 10:06 this morning. And then we're going to do a little bit longer conversation about music and, of course, the September 21st concert with the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band over in Rupert. It's just going to be a busy morning. Don't go away, Zeb at the Ranch. I'll be back in 6. Welcome back, Zeb at the Ranch, hour number 2, and thank you for all your involvement last hour. And we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, and they include Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends with Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal.
Western Waste Services, don't forget, my goodness, they've got all the dumpsters in various sizes. If you're like I am, I'm going to just go into that garage and I'm going to go into this office. I know you're laughing. I'm going to clean this thing up and just pitch and throw. Look out, it's time to clean. And they've got all the dumpsters and all the sizes. And by golly, then they'll come get them for you. You better believe it. Don't forget to get on the route service, too. The weekly trash collection service. My goodness, that is good and nice to have. Let me tell you, 734-6969. Get rid of your garbage, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services. Ladies and gentlemen, before we go to our guest, I also want to remind you that Hanson Mortuary, Joel Heward. Joel's going to be on the program with us at about 9:20 tomorrow morning, as a matter of fact. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, always acknowledging the solemn trust and responsibility that you provide. They have to provide for families that they serve with the best possible support and comfort. And always Hanson Mortuary and Joel and his staff with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Serving you, Hanson Mortuary, and your loved ones. Please contact them today, 436-5636, and they'll answer questions about pre-planning funerals to help alleviate a lot of the stress and worry for your family. Contact them today, Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, 436-5636. There is a dear friend coming on the program right now that I cannot wait to ask him his opinion on certain things right now that I would consider a crisis material. But before that, we'll be a little light-hearted. His Colorado Rockies baseball team is 18 games out of first place, but yet I told him at the beginning of the season, I said, no matter how hard you try, Mr. Woldridge, my Chicago Cubs will do better than yours as far as being bigger losers, and they have proved that point. They are 22 and a half games out of first place. Nah, I gotcha.
You got me. At least I don't have to eat more steak.
With a knife that I furnished.
Yeah, and the knife, of course. Well, I used the knife to cut some cardboard this weekend, so I did put it to good use.
Oh, thanks a lot. Frosty, in all seriousness, we talked about this first hour, and I know that I've known you for years, and you're concerned right now for the stability and safety and security of America. This mess in Syria, there is no way that I can back this president. There is no way that I will ever consider what he's doing to be right. I think this is going to be on the eve of Armageddon. I think this man and his ideology are going to get us into a quicksand pit that we'll never get out of. What are your thoughts about Obama and Syria?
Well, certainly I wrote to that, and you have it in your inbox right now for those of you who would like to read the piece I wrote this Monday titled Nobel Peace Prize winner Barack Obama about to rain bombs on Syria. You can see that piece at beforeitsnews.com under the opinion section. It's being featured right now. It's also at freedomsphoenix.com. It's also at newswithviews.com and Liberty News Online. So you can catch that piece. And I really bring it home to what we're facing here. And let me say that the Islamic world, the tribal infighting has been going on for centuries and centuries, since the 6th century when they first started the Islamic religion there, the Prophet Muhammad. And Winston Churchill had this to say about Islam and Muslims, and I'm quoting, "Individual Muslims may show splendid qualities, but the influence of the religion paralyzes the social development of those who follow it. No stronger retrograde religion exists in the world," unquote. That was part of my 20-part series on Islam in America and around the world. And it's been proven time and time again that there is no winning in the Middle East because those people are willing to fight and die and get to heaven with the 72 virgins or whatever. And they have pushed every empire finally out of their realm. And the fact is, Syria holds no threat to the United States any more than Iraq did, and certainly any more than Afghanistan did. And we mired ourselves. And remember this, about, I think it was 17 of the 19 9/11 purported terrorists that drove airplanes into the World Trade Towers and certainly into the ground in Pennsylvania there, and into the Pentagon, if that is what they did, were from Saudi Arabia. So why did we go into and continue a fight that's been going on and slaughtered our own young men? And now that's in Afghanistan for 10 years, 11 years now, and certainly in Iraq for over 10 years, and $1 trillion, and the mayhem that has caused PTSD, of course, and the suicides that are going on, and the absolute uselessness of those ongoing wars. Why would this president of this country inject us into another insane war with an insane culture, insane people, insane everything? And of course, it's up to you and me, all of us, the American people. It's been shown now that we do not want to go into Syria. We don't want to waste our boys, our girls. We don't want to slaughter more people that are already suffered too much. And we don't need to be into the Middle East. We certainly don't need to be into the Muslim lands where there is no sanity, there's no logic, there's no critical thinking, there's no rational understanding, there certainly isn't any peace. So the piece I just wrote. Why would this Nobel Peace Prize winner Barack Obama start another war in Syria? It's just plain crazy, and he's becoming as crazy as all those Muslims over there. So we need to stop this by our own very vociferous voices, calling into your senators and your House reps and your television stations and your radio stations. Say, hey, we do not want to go to war in Syria. That's what I think.
I have not had a chance to read the piece yet, but I'm just going to throw something else at you, and I'm sure probably you have written about it in this latest editorial, if you will. But there's chemical weapons over there that supposedly somebody has used on the Syrian people. But that point is, are we going to go in there and bomb indiscriminately just basically to punish Assad? Are we going to go in and have just choice targets, which we're already telling them where they are, and that's not any kind of a punishment whatsoever? But then there's nobody that likes us over there, Frosty. There's not good guys that are going to go retrieve these chemical weapons and then raise their hand in the back of the classroom and say, Mr. President of the United States, we have your chemical weapons. We will give them to you for safekeeping. We don't know who the good or bad guys are over there, and right now I don't see any good guys. This is a mess, and we're not really aiding and abetting anybody. They don't like us. Nobody likes us over there.
Well, that's exactly correct. The Islamic world hates the great Satan, and that's what America is. We are the great Satan. We're the infidels. And while they may come together to fight us or even infiltrate us or even terrorize us, they hate us. We are, and we literally have Jewish people in our country, we have Christian people in our country, and those are all the enemies to the world of Islam. So there is absolutely no reason for us to go over there, because there is no good guy or bad guy in Syria. It's just Muslims. It's Muslims killing Muslims, and that's what they do. That's what they've been doing for hundreds and thousands, at least 1,000+ years since the 6th century, when Islamic religion really took over there. There's I think 1.5 billion of them right now. And so it's totally insane to get into an insane part of the world where women have no rights, where gays are killed, where there's female genital mutilation, where there are arranged marriages of 12-year-old girls to 40-year-old men, where there's multiple wives, where women are subjugated to honor killings, over 5,000 per year. Do we need to get into that part of the country where it's just mayhem and crazy human behavior? And, of course, the answer is no. We need to stay out of there, let them figure it out on their own. Not one American citizen to die over there for any reason. And let's stop, burning up these $1 million bombs on a country that doesn't deserve 10 cents worth of our sympathy or any of our help or otherwise. Let's go at it and figure it out for themselves in the end.
I got to do a quick commercial, and when I come back, I want to ask you another question about this mess, because we could be on the verge of Armageddon with this foolishness from Obama. Stand by, Frosty. When you think about life insurance, think about Cameron and Siemens Insurance. The same with health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits. All of those need to be thought about and worked out, because your safety and security, your family's security, your business security are all depending on the decisions you make. So please get a hold of these professionals today. Dean Cameron, Todd Siemens, very responsive to your needs at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert, 436-4424. Frosty, this whole thing is like a carnival. It's like a sideshow. It's like a political campaign tour. I mean, Obama having the senators and congressmen come by his office like they're little children that have to be schooled. Obama doing face-to-face interviews with all six major networks. Obama going on TV tomorrow night to look us in the eye on his teleprompter and tell us how valuable this strike is going to be. This is absolutely nothing more than a campaign tour, and human lives are at stake, Frosty.
Well, they are, and again, this is part of your hope and change. And again, ladies and gentlemen, this president, this man, this very questionable man, is now showing that, it's called the Peter Principle. People in North America and Western world and the capitalistic system rise to their highest level of incompetence. He certainly has shown that in the last 4.5, almost coming on to 5 years now, in that he has not brought this country out of war. He's not brought this country into peace. He's not brought this country, he's not solved the 47 million people who are on food stamps by getting jobs instituted into our country. He hasn't stopped the illegal immigration. He hasn't stopped the legal immigration that's swamping this country. He hasn't put 14 million unemployed Americans back to work. He hasn't created anything even to solve, he didn't even solve the health care crisis. He created an even worse one with his Obamacare. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a constitutional republic. You are the final word. You are the one that says yes or no. You get on that phone, you get in letters to the editor, onto the radio shows, call in to, Glenn Beck, call in to Bill O'Reilly, do whatever you can. Make the complete wave of we don't want to go into Syria be heard across the country, and that's the key. It's you. You're always waiting for somebody to save us. Well, we are the ones to save us. We are the ones to speak up in this constitutional republic. So, Zeb, everyone that's listening throughout the country right now to your show, and I know you've got thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of listeners, let's make our voices heard. I've already called up Bennett, and I've already called up Udall, and I've called up Mike Coffin, my representatives, my 2 senators, and my rep. I said, hey, I don't want not a one single American jet plane, not one fighter, not one F-16, not one bomb dropped on Syria for any reason, because it's meaningless, it's stupid, it's inane, and it won't accomplish anything. And I left that message with all of my reps.
You know what I think this is going to be, and what this might become, is the greatest test of our constitutional values ever in this country. Ever. I think this man, this insidious president, one that I do not trust and I do not respect, I think he's using this as a smokescreen to say, well, they didn't vote for it, they won't back me, I'm going to take it upon myself as president, and I'm going to be king dictator, I'm going to do it on my own. Frosty, I think right now, the values of this country through the midterm of Obama's second term, to which he's going to be lame duck, he couldn't care less what happens, I think we're in a dangerous area right now where this man will circumvent all the rules and regulatory systems and do it himself.
Well, that's very possible. And he could do the same thing as he did with giving amnesty to 1 or 2 million illegal alien children that are in this country right now in violation of our laws, their parents in violation of our laws. He's actually representing illegality more than he represents the rule of law. And folks, he's the executive branch. But as I talk about in my article, there's so much corruption going on in Obama's administration. He is himself, again, corrupt beyond anyone's appreciation, whether it's his Social Security card, which is completely fraudulent, because he got it out of Connecticut, a place where he never lived and never worked. He does. We're not sure about his birth certificate. We're not even sure about the father that he purportedly had, Barack Obama Sr. All the evidence lies to a guy named Frank Marshall Davis, who was a communist sympathizer and journalist who lived here in the United States and in Hawaii. That's his real father. I even have a YouTube on that. We know that he lost his, he had to give up his lawyer's license in Chicago because he was doing some unscrupulous activity there, and they were going to come after him anyway. So this is part and parcel of a president who has a silvery tongue, has no experience of any kind to qualify him for the United States presidency, and yet we of course voted him in because of whatever guilt we had, and certainly John McCain was not particularly an exciting candidate. And so now we have what we voted in. The kind of corruption that you're seeing right now is manifesting throughout the U.S. government.
Frosty, let me throw this at you, and you always sit down and analyze various things before you write them in your blog, etc., and all your books. Yes. This is just purely coming out of my right-wing mind, but isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting that with Benghazi, questions unanswered, and more questions coming up every day, the IRS scandal, of course, the scandal on the First Amendment rights with, James Rosen with Fox News, and then, of course, Fast and Furious, and all these other scandals. Isn't it interesting that all of a sudden this smokescreen, this convenient smokescreen of Syria came up and took front page center for everything else and moved everything into the background?
Well, that's again, I bring that up. You know, this man was given the Nobel Peace Prize. I don't know about any of you, but he had done nothing of any impact at all as a U.S. Senator for 1 or 2 years that he was in before he ran for the presidency. And he was given, and again, there's so much affirmative action going on in the United States and making excuses for people not finishing their high school degrees and not going on to college because they don't have the grades and so forth. And this lands in the lap of minorities that simply are giving, they're enjoying a free education, K through 12. They get tremendous scholarships, and yet you have amazing dropout rates of black minorities and Hispanic minorities, Latino minorities across this country. And yet they want their jobs, and they want their paychecks, and they want their money and so forth. And it's called affirmative action. And let's face it, Barack Obama was given an affirmative action Nobel Peace Prize. It wasn't earned. It was just a gift because he is, again, the first black president, and they were hoping that he would do something positive toward peace, and in fact has not done anything in that realm. So again, we're getting what we voted for, and we're getting that kind of corruption, and we're getting that kind of incompetence, and it's now manifesting and it's showing itself. He hasn't done anything in the last 4.5, almost 5 years now, to get America back to work and get this country squared away and get out of these stupid wars. And so we got what we voted for, and we're paying the price of that. And that's simply what's happening.
You know, your point is so well taken right there. When you put the file on immigration reform on his desk, when you put the Benghazi file on his desk, when you put all the files of all the other scandals on his desk, you put the huge file of total incompetency of Obamacare on his desk. You, Frosty, please share with me, Zeb, what this man has done for the betterment of America in the last 6 years. I can't think of anything.
And you won't find anything. Essentially, he's just coasting along in the office of the presidency. He's not put Americans back to work. He hasn't closed the borders and stopped the infiltration of all these illegal aliens. We've certainly got plenty of terrorists in our midst. The mosques, there's over 2,000 of them right now. I just got a report on my transom that all these mosques in this country, anywhere from 60 to 80% of them, are promoting dissent and terrorism in their mosques. They flat out and we've got no-go zones in the United States. We've got all these religious Islamic camps in this country, and so again, what has he done? Yeah, he's actually, I don't know, and I even put it in here on my thing. He's got 8 hardcore Muslims now working in the White House that are advising him. And I've got him right here in front of me. Assistant Secretary for Policy Development of U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Sarif Ali Khan. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like we want a Muslim in charge of the U.S. Homeland Security. Here's another Homeland Security advisor, Mohammed El-Birari. Special envoy to the Organization of Islamic Conferences, Rashid Hussain. I mean, I don't want a bunch of Muslims that have nothing to do with my country, have nothing to do with the formation of my country. All of a sudden, 8 of them are now, and then even the head of the CIA, a guy named John Brennan, is a converted Muslim. He's the head of the CIA. Good God, put the fox in the hen house and let's see if he's going to guard anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in trouble, man, and we're seeing it, and it's manifesting. And what has he done? Well, he's taken us further down a road that I'm not sure if we're going to recover from, but I can't wait for the next 3 years and 4 months to go away so that we can get a president who will lead this country, a president who is an American citizen, and a president who cares about American citizens, and who also is a president who will get Americans back to work, bring manufacturing back to our country, and stop all of this insanity that's going on, like going into foreign wars like this. It just can't keep in. We just can't keep doing this.
Amen. My friend Frosty Woldridge, and we want to end on a little bit of a lighter note. Sad note for me, a smiley face note for you. Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos looked really, really good in the opener, and my Green Bay Packers lost yesterday to the 49ers. I might be having a crying towel with me 24/7, 365, Frosty.
I watched the Packer game. Boy, they were nip and tuck the whole time. I mean, it was touchdown against touchdown, and there was field goal, and then they got that next field goal at the end there, the 49ers. But that was a hell of a game. And yeah, just what's his name, Kaepernick or whatever.
Colin Kaepernick, and that kid is an outstanding quarterback. But I will say this in my defense of my Green Bay Packers: the officials made a horrendous call, and it gave a touchdown to the 49ers that they didn't deserve. And had that not been the case, I would have won that game.
Oh, I'm sure of it. Yeah, that was a missed call. That was totally a missed call, and down there on the 5-yard line.
Yeah.
I saw that. And I kind of said, how could you just play over third down again and redo it just because there was a double penalty? That whole thing was it was almost like the stand-in referees were taking over again and were making all these mistakes. But hey, the Pack's going to come back. But I can tell you this: the Denver Broncos are for real. They dusted the world champion, Ravens. They just kicked their butts, and so it was great to watch that game and see this. And Peyton Manning, oh my God, this is one of the great quarterbacks of all time. I was real proud to see that.
I think I'm going to have to buy some orange material. Thank you very much, my dear friend. God bless you. We'll see you next Monday, okay?
Sounds great, Zeb. Godspeed and God bless, my friend.
Frosty Woolridge, Golden, Colorado. Thank you so much. We're going to have our next guest on the phone with us in just a moment. Don't forget Burley Glass with my friend, Gentle Ben. Hello, Ben. How are you? And he says, you know what? They're always working at Burley Glass, 1029 Overland in Burley, working hard to provide great service to all the communities in the Magic Valley. Well, if you have older windows that might be letting the heat in or letting the heat out, you better check on the vinyl installation of windows for your home that can increase energy efficiency. You better talk to the pros with windows. Burley Glass, 1029 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-1459. And my buddy, Gentle Ben. Hey, don't forget that a couple of days ago, of course, was Labor Day weekend, but you know what? The sale continues on all the great buys on furniture and carpeting and floor covering at Lee's Furniture, Floors and More. Holy bucket of bolts. 459 Overland in Burley. You better get in there and check it out. 15 months, same as cash, and they've got great buys on all your sectionals and all your bedroom sets and all your bunk beds and your hardwood flooring and rolls and rolls of carpeting. It's all there. It's all there at Lee's Furniture, Floors and More. You better stop in today and see the whole crew. Brent Lee and his staff, very knowledgeable, very efficient at helping you for the beautification and the comfort of your home. Lee's Furniture, Floors and More, 459 Overland in Burley. Really nice people. Oh, and by the way, before we go any further, I want to tell you, too, about Let's Ride. They're closed on Mondays, but they're open on Tuesdays all the way through Saturday. Let's Ride where the fun is sold. Oh, get on the bikes and get your motor running. Ha, man, have some fun. Enjoy life. You can check out the new 2014 bikes that are coming in every day. All the street bikes, dirt bikes, all the ATVs. They got the Can-Am 4-seater side-by-side. They got the Yamaha Viking side-by-side. They've got them all over there. And a fantabulous service department. Oh, those guys are good. Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. You stop in and see them tomorrow, 9 to 6, where the fun is sold. Let's Ride. Right now, we're going to go to the phone lines, and we're going to have with us a guest on our program, Mr. Michael Norton, Senior Legal Counsel with the Alliance Defending Freedom. Michael, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to have you on the program. And I wanted to talk to you this morning. I got a cheat sheet from your office all about New England Planned Parenthood violating FDA protocols. And I read this story, and it made me cringe in kind of a fear, if you will, that Planned Parenthood now is giving out literally lethal drugs to kill babies. What's going on here?
This is an incredible story, Zeb, and I want to first of all pay a great deal of tribute to our allied attorney in New Hampshire, Michael Tierney. Michael has been working on this project for over 2 years. I don't know if you remember this a couple of years ago, but in New Hampshire, the Executive Council, which is akin in New England to the Lieutenant Governor, had decided to discontinue grants to Planned Parenthood because it did not want to subsidize Planned Parenthood's abortion industry. As a result of that decision, the Obama administration, Health and Human Services, simply disregarded the sovereign will of the people of New Hampshire and their elected officials and extended a grant directly to Planned Parenthood, bypassing the state of New Hampshire altogether. Well, since that time, Michael has been engaged in fierce battle and litigation, Freedom of Information Act requests and the like, to try to find out just exactly how that happened, who was involved, and what was the result. As a part of that, he discovered in late June of this year that Planned Parenthood of Northern New England, which is a large Planned Parenthood affiliate in New Hampshire, was dispensing abortion-inducing drugs in violation of U.S. Food and Drug Administration protocols by extending those drugs to women who were pregnant up to 63 days past last menstrual cycle, in violation of the FDA protocols that allow those drugs to be dispensed no longer than 49 days from last menstrual cycle. Now, that might not sound like much, but it's an enormous issue because over the history of these particular drugs, their complicated names, calling misoprostol and another drug that goes with it, they have actually caused deaths of women. Not only do they destroy the unborn baby, but they have caused deaths of women and also great harm and injury to women. So really, it doesn't honestly matter how one stands on the issue of abortion. When Planned Parenthood does what we have seen it do over and over again, and that is be more concerned about its bottom line profits than it is about the health, welfare, and safety of the women that it treats, we have to come to the fore. So as a result of that discovery by Michael Tierney, we sent Alliance Defending Freedom sent on behalf of not only Alliance Defending Freedom but also an organization called American Association of Pro-Life Obstetricians and Gynecologists, a very strong group of over 2,000 medical doctors who believe that life is sacred and want to promote life as the best option. We sent a very long and detailed letter to the New Hampshire Board of Nursing and the New Hampshire Board of Medicine, both of which are considering this potential violation by Planned Parenthood, on the evils and effects, really, of dispersing these potentially very lethal drugs to women beyond the dates and the protocols called for by the Food and Drug Administration. So we're very hopeful that what will ultimately come about by this is first of all a finding that Planned Parenthood does not have the appropriate licenses to distribute and disperse these drugs, but secondly, that they're doing so in violation of health and safety standards that our federal government provides.
Mike, let me ask you this, and I apologize for the naive question, but I just really haven't followed this story until the last couple of days when I received this information. The Planned Parenthood is distributing this abortion-inducing drug. Are they going through a doctor? Are they checking to see if the potential patient might have any allergic reactions to this? Are they doing any checking to see about the danger factors? Are they just handing these drugs out?
You know, this is the astonishing part of this, Zeb. We've run into this same situation in the state of Iowa recently, as well as in other states. Iowa has been the Planned Parenthood affiliate in Iowa has been a leader in what is called webcam abortions. In a way of sort of, if you will, saving the cost of health care, they'll have a doctor in a location in Des Moines interview a patient in a remote area of Iowa by closed-circuit television. And we have a client, Sue Thayer, who you may be familiar with, who's brought a lawsuit against Planned Parenthood up there for health care fraud. And Sue has exposed this situation to people in Iowa for the last couple of years. What happens is the doctor sits before the camera for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, interviews a very vulnerable woman who has little or no options, nobody there to support her or to help her, and he concludes that she wants, a chemical abortion, so he pushes a button, a drawer opens in front of her, and there are 2 pills there. She is told to take one that moment, and then 24 to 48 hours later, take the second pill at home. This in and of itself is totally contrary to Food and Drug Administration protocols. You're supposed to have a doctor present when these pills are dispensed to this woman, and you're supposed to have follow-up visits. They cannot be dispensed at home. You're supposed to have even a follow-up visit after the second pill. None of that happens with Planned Parenthood. They just are so voracious for money and bottom-line profits that they do not provide the health care that even Food and Drug Administration protocols say are necessary. That same kind of concept is happening in New Hampshire as well. Women are being given these drugs, one at the clinic, and then the other told to take it home and take it later without any kind of medical or health care involvement whatsoever for that woman on those very, very important occasions.
Mike, do we know, do we have any kind of guarantees, or do we have any knowledge that this couldn't be on a 50-state basis? Do we have any knowledge that it might not be going on in Idaho? Or
Zeb, and I think that first of all, there are I think 77 different Planned Parenthood affiliates around the country. All of them are interrelated to Planned Parenthood Federation of America. That is sort of the mothership, if you will. And what we have found in not only our healthcare fraud investigations, fraud, waste, and abuse investigations of Planned Parenthood and other abortion is a great deal of commonality and similarity in what is done at one affiliate in comparison to what is done at another affiliate. So I think it's increasingly clear that orders from on high are coming to these affiliates to go ahead, and this is a good way to make money, Mr. Affiliate Director. So go ahead and put this pill process in work, and you can dispense more and more of these pills and make more and more money for our bottom line. You know, they're moving in California, for example, to allow abortions to be taking place without even having a doctor present. I don't quite understand how anybody could go through such a serious surgical procedure as a surgical abortion without a real doctor being present. Well, my hope would be that they didn't go through one at all, but that said, Planned Parenthood has to be held to the same kind of standards, common sense health, safety, and welfare standards, as does any other ambulatory surgical center in the country.
Yeah, but Mike, here's what bothers me. Basically, my tax dollars and yours are being used to aid and abet a situation to where we're literally killing babies.
This is exactly right, Zeb. You have hit the nail right on the head, as you always do. Last year, Planned Parenthood received $542 million of taxpayer money to promote abortion and other services that it provides to women. Now, we like to think in our lives that our doctors are trustworthy and reliable and honest and really care for us. So we place a great deal of trust in our doctors. And I'm quite sure that when women go into Planned Parenthood, they do so blindly trusting that Planned Parenthood has their health, welfare, and safety in mind. That is just simply not what we have found in our investigations. Planned Parenthood is singularly concerned with its bottom line, and maybe somewhere down on the bottom of the list there is some concern for the health, safety, and welfare of women.
There's another aspect here, Mike, that's just really bothering me, is maybe a 16, an 18, a 21-year-old woman taking one of those pills and knowingly realizing afterwards that they have just killed their prospective baby, their potential child. What about the psychological effects? This is almost like a hemlock society.
Well, it is out of control. There isn't any question about that, and unfortunately, the courts of our land have aided and abetted in the killing of babies by basing decisions of the so-called right to choose not on science but on politics. There is no scientific rationale for Roe v. Wade or the cases that have followed Roe v. Wade. In fact, the last case to address before the United States Supreme Court to address the issue of whether or not Roe v. Wade should be overturned held, astonishingly enough, that we really can't overturn Roe v. Wade because it would cause people to lose trust and confidence in the United States Supreme Court. That was one reason. And you have to think about that for a moment. How many people have trust and confidence in a Supreme Court that concludes that we have to issue decisions, whether they're merited or not, simply to instill trust? The second was that they said, the Supreme Court said in its 5-4 majority decision, that women have come to rely for their lives, their careers, and their futures on the right to get an abortion, and therefore we're not going to disturb it. That's just nonsense. That's plain nonsense in a country where a substantial majority of Americans are now opposed to abortion, and more Americans are understanding that life begins at conception. Science points to the reality and the truth that we all know that God creates human beings in His image, and life begins at conception. Science demonstrates that more and more so every day, and science also demonstrates that there are severe and serious psychological and physical and emotional and long-term consequences on a woman, and frankly on a father as well, for the taking of an unborn child's life.
Mike, I'm so upset about this story, but what can other of my listeners do to not only help support what you're doing with Alliance Defending Freedom, but also to let the world know what a heinous organization Planned Parenthood really is? What can we do?
Well, a lot of things, really, Zeb. I think probably the first and most important thing that anyone can do is to pray, to seriously pray on this issue and for the truth and for a culture of life to prevail in our society. Secondly, people can go to our website, www.alliancedefendingfreedom.org, and find out all about ADF and all about things that ADF is doing in this Planned Parenthood arena. You can link on our website to our fraud reports and litigation cases against Planned Parenthood. You can link to a campaign we call It's Pretty Ugly that'll give you all the details of just how ugly the abortion industry and specifically Planned Parenthood is. And you can consider making a donation to our organization. We are a ministry-supported organization, and so the more support we have, the more we're able to identify just how bad abortion is in our society, what an evil it is, and how it affects the lives of millions and millions of not only unborn children who are destroyed in our land, but also the mothers and dads who have conceived those children.
Absolutely. I'm just taken aback by this story, Mike, and I certainly appreciate you being on the air this morning. Alliance Defending Freedom Senior Counsel Michael Norton, and keep up the good fight, my friend. God bless you and all the others with the Alliance Defending Freedom. I appreciate you being on the air this morning.
Thanks, Zeb, and God bless you. We appreciate all you do for this important cause.
Well, thank you very much. Wow. It brings tears to my eyes to think that we're just killing babies, wantonly killing babies. Don't want the child out here, take a pill. Oh, my goodness. And we don't understand the health risks. We don't understand the psychological risks. My goodness, what's this society coming to? Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. But it's time now for a weather update with our dear friend Michael Rogers, weather.com, and it's brought to you this hour by our dear friends at Red's Trading Post, 203 Fifth Avenue South in Twin Falls. Ryan Horsley, the manager. Don't forget, hunting season is here, and they've got all the guns, all the ammo, all the optics, all the accessories, everything at Red's Trading Post. You better stop in and see them today. We'll tell you more in just a minute. Here's Michael Rogers.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Set up a brand spanking new week of you, me, and some nice, perfect, cool fall weather. Sunny today, 78 for the high. How about that? 54 for the overnight low, 81 for the high tomorrow. Got a chance of thunderstorms is going to be taking place on Wednesday going all the way through Friday. But what a nice day to start off the beginning of the work week with clear, sunny skies and nice, cool temperatures. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you this hour by Red's Trading Post, 203 Fifth Avenue South in Twin Falls. The people at Red's Trading Post know all about guns and ammo, and they can help you with all your needs. Stop in and see them today. Red's Trading Post in Twin Falls. Hey, don't forget this Wednesday. My goodness sakes, they're going to have a ripping good Patriots Day over at Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Oh, my. Don't forget George Mass is going to be over there there cooking his famous hamburgers and hot dogs, and they're going to have all the proceeds go to the POWMIA of Rupert, and they're going to have the lowest prices in town on Carhartt clothing. You're going to love Carhartt clothing, the jackets, the vest, everything, and 20% off on cinched jeans. Check it out at Valley White Home and Ranch this Wednesday, Patriots Day. Proud to be an American at Valley White Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. You know, I want to back up just a little bit and also tell you, caller, I'll be right with you, but earlier that same morning, this Wednesday, we're going to have George Mass over at Ramsey Heating and Electric and cooking a great big Patriots Day salute to farmers breakfast of all kinds of great biscuits and gravy, coffee, milk, and orange juice for just $3. Please. It's going to be a day to remember. We're going to have that great big remote at Ramsey Heating and Electric early in the morning, all through up until 11. Please stop in and just be a part of the Hats Off to Farmers and Patriots Day this Wednesday at Ramsey Heating and Electric, and then move on over to Valleywide in Rupert. Oh, wow. I mean, great businesses serving you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, recently I rode up through Idaho, up to, McCall and Grangeville and up to Coeur d'Alene on last weekend, in fact, up to Coeur d'Alene. And I had to go over to Spokane because there was a wedding over there I was going to go to it. And I didn't have to wear a helmet here in Idaho, but in Washington, Oregon, California, I have to wear helmets. And it's so funny to me. They abort babies like there's no tomorrow, but they force me to wear a helmet. And I say, does this not make any sense at all? I says, seriously. I says, why would you force me to wear a helmet, but you're going to abort babies like there's no tomorrow? What kind of logic is that?
There is no logic in this world anymore, and I'm just going to stand up, and I'm a very simplistic person. What's right is right, wrong is wrong, black is black, white is white. And when you start giving people pills, wantonly just giving pills without having a doctor involved, and you're saying, well, take this one, it'll kill the baby. What kind of a society have we turned into, Randy? Psychologically, this just blows my mind.
Well, they cannot in any way, shape, or form believe in God. They do not believe that there really is an actual tangible being that they will have to have a day of reckoning with, that we will have perfect recall. We will remember, our brains remember everything that we've ever said, done, and thought, and it will all come out, and everybody will know the truth, and we will have to answer for that. That's the reason why repentance is so important every day, because I make mistakes every day. So, you see, they do not believe in God. They cannot believe it, or they're so misinformed or uninformed that they just don't even have a clue. And whenever I get a speeding ticket, and I say, well, I never saw the sign, the officer says, well, ignorance is no excuse, sir.
Yeah. Randy, I just really question why the integrity of America is going down the toilet. Why are we letting this happen? Our Constitution is sliding. All of this is getting worse every day. And I'm just going to say this, that they can ridicule Christianity. They can ridicule God. They can ridicule the believers. But I think it's now time more than ever before to stand up, be proud, and look them in the eye and say, we're not going to step around you, but we will step over you.
Hannity had these college students on, and I caught some of it, and the Democrats were so diligent in their defense of illogical things. It did not make any sense what they were so diligently defending. And the Republican students made simple sense, and it was just easy logic. But somehow, the people, the youthful idiots who believe these things, you say, well, how can you be so lost that you believe illogical things like this? And of course, they can't ever answer it. They won't answer it. And just like you do, you invite them on, the reason why they realize enough that they cannot logically defend their positions, or they might get on the air with Zeb Bell.
There you go. Randy, I always appreciate your insight because you're spot on. Thank you so much. God bless you. Have a good day. Thank you. Hey, don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric offering rebates on qualified Lennox home comfort systems. Whether it's a gas furnace, air conditioner, heat pump, you and your family will enjoy the comfort. Call 678-0459 and learn how Ramsey Heating and Electric can save you money. At Ramsey's, they sell warm winters and cool summers like they have for over the last 55 years. And don't forget the big remote at Ramsey's this Wednesday morning from 8 to 11 as we salute farmers and agriculture and, of course, Patriots Day. It's going to be a wonderful day this Wednesday. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Let's see if Gina's back. Gina, are you there?
Yes, I am.
That scared me to death. I was just going to talk, I swear to you, I was going to talk to her about the feminization of America, and then I heard your voice come on, and I thought, whoa, what's happened here? How are you doing, Scotty?
Well, I'm doing well. I'd be happy to discuss that with you, but I don't think I'll have her unique perspective.
No, but wait a minute. You can. Let me do this quick commercial. I want to ask you a question, okay? Stand by just a second. By the way, folks, would you like to start earning possibly $30,000 to $40,000 a year in as little as 4 or 5 weeks? Well, then let me tell you, you'd better call Lucky Bourne at CSI's new Sage Truck Driving School in Burley right now, 878-5802. You will get one-on-one over-the-road training and all the necessary endorsements. And when you've earned your CDL, their team will help you get your first truck driving job. New classes begin every week, so call my buddy Lucky Bourne right now at CSI's new truck driving school in Burley, 878-5802. I want to ask you this, and I've talked about this before on the radio, and I just want to see if you agree with me. I think there is a bona fide movement in this country to feminize and also make wussies out of all of us. There are college credits right now at various Eastern school universities, Scott, that are promoting feminism, and we're seeing a very wussy society being promoted away from the macho man or the head of the family, the man. What are your thoughts?
Well, I tend to agree with you as far as, even you look in the military as a movement towards women in combat, and all of the traditional gender roles are kind of being blurred, and I don't happen to think there's anything wrong with a husband that goes out and makes enough money to take care of his wife and his kids so that she's able to, be at home to teach those kids values that they need and are going to, rely on throughout their entire life to go out and be successful human beings. Now, at the same time, if a lady wants to work, that's fine too. But, the traditional gender roles are being blurred, and everybody's running around confused now, and it's causing tons of problems.
I agree with you, and also it's even invaded the toy stores. Did you notice that a lot of toy stores and a large market department stores are starting to blend the toys together with packaging that doesn't really distinguish boys or girls' toys? They're blending them together to a gender neutral, and I think this is another part of our society where we're losing this respect of men and women, and we're blurring, like you said, the gender lines together, and I think that's going to be the downfall of America.
Well, and I think you touched on it right there. There's got to be respect with women for the roles that men play and the role that men play, and they need to respect the role that women play, and that is the key part to being able to function with gender roles having their certain anonymity.
Absolutely. Scotty, good to have you running the board there for a few minutes. Good to hear from you. Thanks.
Good to be here, and you have a call.
All right, we'll take that quick call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hello, Zeb. This is Chris on. Hey, I've got a couple of points here. First off, I'm not married yet, but when I do get married, I'd like to think I'll be able to provide so that my wife will have the option to work if she wants to or not, because I feel that's something that she should be able to choose. I know I couldn't handle staying at home all day. I'd go crazy out of my head.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I've also got a point to go back, and I don't want to, take away from your show, but the Christianity, the Constitution was based with what's being removed from our nation.
Right.
And you can see it everywhere, whether it comes from our president, even down to our local levels. the Constitution was based on a Christianity not being tolerated over in England.
Okay, I agree with you. I wish I had more time to talk to you. I'm almost out of it, and I got to go to the ABC News, but I would like to pursue this with you a little further. The only thing I'm bringing up, and I think you'll agree with me real quick, is that we are blurring, like Scott just used that word, it's a good word, we're blurring the lines of gender respect and appreciation. And when I look at the transgender and the homosexual agenda, etc., I find it absolutely deplorable that we can't respect what God has given us as human beings, and it's being denigrated.
I agree completely.
God bless you for your call, sir. Have a great day. Thanks. Call me again in the future. I'd love to hear from you. I got to take a little break for about 6 minutes, and we're going to come back, and you're going to really enjoy Attorney Gail Trotter talking about Syria and our possible involvement. And then, of course, John McCune at 10:30 with the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Don't go away. I love that drum roll. Always wanted to play the drums. Never could get my right hand to introduce itself to my left hand. Anyway, good morning. Welcome back, Zeb at the Ranch. And, of course, I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 great locations serving you. And some of our great advertisers, including, of course, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland in Burley. And our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call, get on the route service today, 734-6969. Have a wonderful guest in just a moment. Stand by. I want to also remind you the great indoors for those who love the great outdoors. What am I talking about? Hey, Sportsman's Warehouse, 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls. Oh my! Quality gear, friendly experts, down-home attitude. They've got it all for you at Sportsman's Warehouse in Twin Falls. Stop into my favorite store today. Hey, by the way, if you're hungry, I know someplace you ought to go. Oh, the food is great. The Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley, and they've got senior citizen dinner specials Monday through Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. for only $5.95. $5.95? How do they do that? Well, let me tell you what's on the special for today. Chicken paprika. Is that right? And that's with mashed potatoes, veggies, and super salad. Oh, that sounds tasty. At the Chadwick Sports Grill, you're going to love the food. You're going to love the people at 139 West Main in Burley, the Chadwick Sports Grill. We have had this lady on in the past, and I really, really like her straightforward attitude, and I'm sure we're going to get more of the same here this morning when we talk about a very serious situation, and that's our involvement with Syria. This lady, her name is Attorney Gail Trotter of the Independent Women's Forum, and Gail, I'm going to tell you straight up, I don't want Obama to get us involved in this quicksand called the Middle East and Syria. I don't want this man to go in front of the public and with his great big crybaby eyes and the use of his teleprompter tell us what advantage it's going to be for us to get over there, and I don't want our congressmen and senators to be wooed by this man to get us into possibly Armageddon. Am I wrong?
No, I'm with you. And these are really bad policies that he's advocating. And you are so right. You've identified the key issues that concern this type of decision that he's trying to draw us into. And there's a lot of dissension, not only by the senators and congressmen who are deciding this week whether or not to give him authorization to do this. Really, it's a military frolic and detour, and it's also the American people. They're not supporting this, and it has nothing to do with Iraq or Afghanistan. It's really a question of the policy of this administration and what Americans see as in our national interest. We have not been threatened. Our national interests are not threatened.
Gail, you're a very sharp lady, and being an attorney, you have to be. But, I mean, your political viewpoints are always spot on. I said last hour, and I'm going to stand behind this, isn't it interesting, quote unquote, that with Benghazi's mess, the IRS mess, the scandal about the First Amendment going down the drain with James Rosen of Fox News, the Fast and Furious, and all the unanswered questions, isn't it interesting that all of a sudden Syria came into the forefront, and that seems to have pushed everything behind the smokescreen? Do you think I'm right or wrong?
You are so right. And another one I would draw attention to is Obamacare.
Yes.
We're getting ready to launch into the implementation of Obamacare starting October 1st. And there was real momentum in the American discussion about what Obamacare will do and what the administration's policy has been in terms of looking at the mandates and doing sorts of actions required to keep Obamacare afloat that the Congress has not backed. The Obama administration has done a lot of stuff unilaterally related to Obamacare to prop it up, and that was part of the discussion. This was something that was being discussed on the news, in households, in community events and meetings, and now that's all just been wiped away by the Obama administration's interest in going and doing, well, we don't even know what. I mean, they're telling us that John Kerry today was saying he wants to do an unbelievably small, limited strike in Syria. An unbelievably small. When in the history of the U.S. has any military leader or Secretary of State said that the U.S. is going to act, and we're going to act in an unbelievably small way? Talk about the opposite of shock and awe.
Yeah, but wait a minute, Gail. You know far better than I because you study this every day. But who are we really helping? We don't have any friends over there. We don't have any allies with boots on the ground in Syria. We don't know who's going to go in and take over the chemical weapons. We don't know where they're going to move them to. We don't know about collateral damage if we bomb. We don't know about retribution. This is a quagmire.
It is, that is a key point in assessing whether or not the U.S. should take action, unilateral military action in this circumstance. First, we had the dictator of Syria, Bashar al-Assad, conduct an interview with Charlie Rose from his country in Syria on Sunday. It's going to air tonight. And in that interview, Charlie Rose really questioned him about whether or not he used the chemical weapons against his own people. And Assad refused to say that he used the chemical weapons. So this is different than Saddam Hussein, who was saying he had chemical weapons, he was going to use them. Assad is disavowing using the chemical weapons, and he's pushing it off on the rebels who are fighting against him. And, you know, when you look at some of these groups of rebels, just as you were saying, they're aligned with the Muslim Brotherhood, who we see is active in Egypt, and there's all sorts of civil unrest in Egypt right now. Those are not democratic, peace-loving people. The rebels in Syria are also, many of them aligned with al-Qaeda. Senator Ted Cruz said a really good point that we don't want our military acting as the Air Force for al-Qaeda. We also saw this, I'm sure you know, the anniversary of Benghazi is coming up this week on September 11th. When Obama and his administration went and intervened in Libya, we had the effect of arming our enemies who used those weapons against us and against our 4 brave Americans who died in the attack on Benghazi. So you are right. We do not understand the situation well enough, but we know enough about the rebels who are fighting Assad that even if we were able to take out Assad with an unbelievably small, limited attack, the people who would rise up behind him are not good actors. And if they have access to these chemical weapons, are we going to be any safer? Are our allies in the region going to be any safer? We're already helping Jordan and Turkey support the refugees. There are over 2 million who have flooded in from Syria to avoid this horrible civil war that's going on in Syria. We're helping Turkey. We're helping Jordan. What is going to happen to this region? I mean, we have no plan when we go into Syria. There is no plan, and we have no asserted goal other than to enforce some amorphous international norm against chemical weapons. And we do not want to put our brave men and women into this situation when John Kerry, in testifying before the Senate last week, when he was asked, can we put something in this military authorization that limits the boots on the ground, his response was, well, we don't want to limit it that way, but I'll assure you that we're not going to put boots on the ground. I mean, it's just, where is the plan in all of this?
Yeah. There's one other thing I want to back up just a little bit, because this offended me when I read this morning. Obama's chief of staff, Dennis McDonough, said that, and he insisted, that any strike would be big enough to ensure proper punishment to Assad for allowing the use of chemical weapons. Wait a minute. We're not talking about a little kid here that needs to be spanked because he stole a bunch of cookies out of Aunt Martha's cookie jar. We're talking about possibly an Armageddon situation with war going on with Russia, China, the entire Middle East all in flames. A punishment, we need to go in there and just get Assad out of power and just try to renovate the entirety of Syria. But that's not going to happen. We shouldn't be there in the first place.
You're right, and that's something any good parent tells his child. Don't pick a fight that you're not prepared to win.
There you go.
And when you look at this situation, you look at all the language that the Obama administration has been using. Some of the calls for support in this situation have been that our reputation is on the line, the American people's reputation is on the line, Congress's reputation is on the line, the international community, the world's reputation is on the line. But the truth is, this is not a playground standoff. It's not a question about upholding the president and the administration's reputation. People are going to die in this situation if we go for a unilateral military strike against Syria. And my question would be, to what end? Obama has not given any satisfactory answer to this. And even just today, Secretary Kerry was questioned about how Assad could avoid a military strike, and his answer was, if within a week Assad gives all of his chemical weapons up, then there would be no military strike. Well, what kind of a answer is that? I mean, a week? This attack happened in August. We've been discussing it for a while, for a couple weeks, and we do not have a consensus of the American public who wants to go into this. And this is not a case where the administration has been able to make the case that American interests are at stake. And when you look at all of those facts, you realize that we have less influence in the world than politicians and pundits would like us to believe, and we need to deploy our limited influence judiciously. So in this situation, we only have a limited amount of ability to influence the results of this civil war. And when we look at the world scale, the world as a whole, do we want to use our energy, our capital, our time, our treasure, our efforts to try to influence this when, as you rightly pointed out, we don't know what the outcome will be, because the people who are fighting against Assad also have issues, and many of them are enemies of the American people. So we have to carefully understand this, and just going to basically prop up supposedly our reputation sounds more to me like a childish way of looking at things instead of a masterful program of statesmanship on behalf of our country.
Gail, aren't you, like me, a little embarrassed? I'm a lot more than a little embarrassed that with Barack Obama blitzing senators and the voters and congressmen and going on TV and trying to glad hand and shake the hands of people that are opposed to him, isn't it kind of like a very cheap campaign whistleblowing tour when we're talking about going to war and killing people? The whole thing has got a carnival atmosphere, and it sickens me. What's your thought?
I agree with you. And if you look at the speech that Obama gave in opposition to the Iraq War, he kept using this fight, this phrase about, you want to fight President Bush? And he would give all these reasons why we should not have intervened in Iraq. And I think the same speech can be used to discuss this with him as well by interviewers, news people, journalists, the White House press corps, to ask him, you want to fight President Obama? Why are we having this fight? I mean, you can't say that it's not a war. If you lob missiles at another country, they're certainly going to take it as a war. And this is serious business. So just as you're saying, it's not good optics when President Obama goes and plays golf on Saturday, which he did, And he takes with him 3 staffers from the White House. He's not up lobbying, calling Congress, putting his personal, credibility on the line with these lawmakers that he's put in a very difficult position. And like you're saying, it just doesn't seem, you don't see Churchill, you don't see images of Churchill, you don't see images of the great leaders in history who have come to a time of crisis, who are able to rise to the situation and rally the people behind him. Instead, this is just another example of where he has created a new world disorder. And we look at all of the rhetoric that he had in his inaugural address and in his campaigning, as you said, about how he was going to be the person who was able to bring peace to the world. Mm-hmm. And in fact, people believe that so much they gave him the Nobel Peace Prize, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet we know that in this situation, the world has become a more dangerous place through the actions of his administration. And when you look at the numbers on the Hill right now of congressmen and senators and how they're leaning on this authorization of force, in the House, there are 114 people against the authorization of force. There are 116 congressmen and women who are leaning no. There are 178 who are undecided. And there are only 25 congressmen who are in favor of this limited strike. When you look at the Senate, there are 17 against it. There are 10 who are leaning no. There are 50 who are undecided. And there are only 23 who are for this strike. And like you're saying, it just doesn't seem like Obama is serious about this. And if it were such a national interest, something that we are compelled to do, you would think he would be out there rallying countries, rallying the international community, rallying lawmakers and his grassroots organization to push for this necessary action. But we don't see that happening.
Gail, could we be witnessing, along with a debacle that could lead us right to Armageddon, but could we be witnessing also the beginning of the demise of our Constitution, of our regulatory powers, of our system in this country, to where we have a checks and balances system? Could we be witnessing basically a man so obsessed with power that he will do anything to get his way?
I don't see that as much with Obama, that he's obsessed with power. I see him as a real ideologue who thinks that certain things, certain policies that have been pushed by the left for a long time would radically improve America. And it goes against our founding. It goes against these constitutional rights that we hold dear. And we've seen it in so many areas. You mentioned it at the beginning of this interview. Just go through all the different constitutional amendments, the Bill of Rights, and see what this administration has done to thwart them. The First Amendment, the freedom of religion. We've had so many attacks on the freedom of religion under this administration. For one, the HHS mandate, which requires the Catholic Church and other Christian organizations to go against their deeply held Christian faith and pay fines if they don't surrender their faith. So that's one example of that. You had another great example with the James Rosen Fox News reporter situation, where Eric Holder personally signed off on an investigation of James Rosen as a possible co-conspirator for national security leaks. And that is a real threat to the freedom of the press, which is under the First Amendment. Obviously, the Second Amendment has been attacked by this administration. We have seen this throughout his second term, especially following Newtown, but even most recently when he issued 2 executive orders that tried to go around having the Congress to put into effect the changes that he wants to our Second Amendment rights. And he is using every possible tool to reinvent America according to his leftist vision. And we could continue on with many, many more examples. I mean, the NSA, the way that it is intruding into our sphere of privacy, that is being used against us as well. And these are concerns that were all bubbling up over the summer. The IRS targeting groups based on their viewpoint for different tax treatment. And they're supposed to be a nonpartisan, apolitical agency, and yet we see how that has been turned to be used against. We don't know how far up it goes in the administration, because now we're all focused on Syria. So these continue to be questions that we need to have answered. We need the Congress to continue to investigate it. We need brave journalists to ask those tough questions. And, they're in fear now from being targeted from, like, the James Rosen situation. And we need these questions to continue to be asked. And Syria is a huge distraction from these challenges to our Bill of Rights and our constitutional rights.
One last question, Gail. Let's assume that this is Wednesday morning, after the Tuesday night, looking at the teleprompter and TV screens into millions of Americans' homes and imploring that they go along with his war on Syria. Will you, what would you say? Would you say he will win the right to have the vote, or will he lose and not send us over to Syria? What do you think is going to happen after Wednesday morning?
Well, it's very interesting, because I was listening to Bill Kristol this morning, who's very much in tune with the pulse of Washington, and he's a conservative who actually supports intervention in Syria, even though he thought that the intervention should have been 2 years ago, and we would be in a much different place than we are right now. So obviously I don't agree with him about that, but he was being asked about what the reaction is going to be on Wednesday, and he thought that something will be passed, but it will be passed in a way that does not allow the Obama administration to have the kind of force that it wants to apply in that situation. And I think he might be right. I think there is a sense that people want to support the president, and people want the president to have the voice of the American people in foreign policy, and that's something that the right has always been very strong about. So there is a sense that you do want to support the president. But his plan right now is not a good plan.
Absolutely.
And I think that there could be a really good plan for Syria that involves making sure that we're taking care of the humanitarian needs of the Syrian people. We need to encourage private organizations to help the people in that area. We also need to give support to Jordan and Turkey to help the refugees who have fled out of Syria to avoid persecution and murder by not only the government, but also some of the rebels. We've seen many videos of this. And we also need to make serious and committed preparations to defend our allies and ourselves. And we need to make an all-out effort to locate all the chemical weapons in Syria so that when something happens in this situation, something changes, we are prepared to respond quickly to it, instead of having these long conversations about these ideas that the administration has that do not actually solve the problem and make things worse.
Absolutely.
So I think the Congress should have some action. I don't think they should give the president what he's looking for. I think they should do these things that I've set out, and I hope that they do some sort of resolution along those lines. But I don't know. You never know. Well, I guess we'll all be waiting to see.
Absolutely. One of my very favorite guests. I just love this lady's viewpoint. Attorney Gail Trotter of the Independent Women's Forum. Gail, you're welcome anytime. God bless, and thank you for sharing with us this morning on my program.
Thank you. It's always an honor to be on your program.
Thank you so much. Take care. Lovely lady, Attorney Gail Trotter, as I said, with the Independent Women's Forum, and I'm very honored to have her on the show talking about a huge mess, Syria, and Obama's involvement. I want to remind you that we are going to be having our lunch bunch for this month of September at Perkins Restaurant and Bakery, 800 North Overland in Burley. Yes, we're going to be over at Perkins. Yes, John Webster is rolling out the red carpet. Yes, we're going to have an excellent place to have our lunch bunch. Yes, the food is going to be great. And yes, we're going to have lots of door prizes. So don't miss it coming up on the 26th. Our lunch bunch for September at Perkins Restaurant and Bakery, 800 North Overland and Burley. Don't you miss it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you so much. We're going to send it back over to our main studios, and we'll be back in just a moment with more of John McEwen with the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band right here on Zeb at the Ranch. Don't go away.
And now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, wow. Don't forget Patriots Day 911 coming up this Wednesday, and we're going to be over at Ramsey Heating and Electric early in the morning, as a matter of fact, and George Mass is going to have a Patriot breakfast starting at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 7 o'clock till 9:30, and it's going to be biscuits and gravy, coffee, milk, orange juice, just $3. All the net proceeds go to the 3rd annual Zeb at the Ranch Christmas for Kids and the Youth for Liberty, so don't miss that. And then we're going to be over there, thanks to Lennox and everybody else, having a huge remote broadcast from 8 to 11 at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Don't miss it this Wednesday. It is going to be great. Tribute to farmers, salute to farmers, and of course, it's Patriots Day at Ramsey Heating and Electric in Burley on Wednesday. Well, we're right now going to go to the phone line, and we're going to have a guest that was on for a short period of time this last week, and I told him I'd love to have him come back onto the program this morning and talk about music and talk about his world-famous group. And you're going to be able to hear them on September 21st at the Minidoka County Centennial Concert with the world-famous Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Good morning, John McEwen. How are you?
Well, that's me. Who am I on the phone with?
This is Zeb Bell. You were on my program last week, and it's good to have you back.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure. She didn't tell me. Yeah, I talked to you last Friday. How you doing?
I am fantastic, and I wanted to give you just a little bit more time to talk about the Dirt Band and your involvement in music and music in general. As we highlight, of course, you're coming to the Minidoka County Centennial Celebration on the 21st. John, kind of regrouping some of the questions we talked about the last time you were on the air. The Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, why have you had such continued success basically for generations? I mean, you're in your 47th year, and you guys are still turning out some really good music. How come the longevity? What would you give it to?
We're just getting underway. I think we've got a good start. I think one of the things that we attribute it to is the fact that we started young and had some early success and learned a lot of tough lessons and good lessons and all that. And one of the things that happens with this group is the members always allow somebody else in the group to exhibit one of their strengths. It's not like just a lead singer that runs everything. It's kind of like a controlled or an uncontrolled democracy. Sometimes it might be Jimmy on the harmonica taking center stage, or Bobby singing "Stand a Little Rain," which was the #1 song for the band. And then he goes back and backs up Jeff, and it's just a good working relationship that has allowed that to happen.
You know, John, when you talk about a good working relationship, boy, a lot of groups have not had that. There's been a lot of dissent, there's been a lot of breakups, there's been a lot of new additions, but you guys seem to be rolling right along. You must have the personalities and the ability to communicate to keep your band together over all these years.
It's an ability to communicate and knowing when to not communicate. Sometimes if something is difficult or goes wrong, we know we shouldn't talk about it right after a show. We'll get to it tomorrow. You know?
Mm-hmm.
It's because sometimes after a performance, it's not a good time to talk about anything about except when do we get on the bus again. And so it took a few years to learn that, to come off stage and not go into, why did you step in front of me, or any little thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because you're not going to change them then anyway. It's better to get together over dinner and say, it would be better for me if you did this instead of that, like last night. So it's that's part of it, I guess, and part of it is the biggest part of it, though, is the people that have come to see us over the years have often ended up bringing their kids or playing the records at home.
Mm-hmm.
And we have this audience that shows up that's anywhere from 10 to 90 years old, and everybody in between. And when you have that kind of thing in front of the stage that you're playing on, you realize it's an important part of their life, and it's like our responsibility to go out there and do that as good as we can.
John, when you have looked at the group and its history, the nitty-gritty dirt band, and everything that you've accomplished, all the different concerts, all the different awards, and taking all the tours literally around the globe, is there any memory that for you personally stands out the most, that you treasure the most?
You know, it depends on the day and what song is brought up. You can sit and look at various recordings, and there's stories behind every one of them. But like when I would say the first Farm Aid, because that's what you triggered by talking about farmers before we came on.
Mm-hmm.
That we played the first, and we played several Farm Aids, but the first one, yeah, that was an unforgettable time. Being put in the dressing room with Bob Dylan and Eddie Van Halen on the first night that Eddie Van Halen was playing with Sammy Hagar, you know, starting that up again, and watching these two disparate guys getting ready. Bob's fumbling with his harmonica rack, and Eddie's hammering on his guitar, and I'm tuning my banjo. I said, what a weird space I'm in. And that was memorable to go out in front of those 80,000 people that night and feel like you're doing something good. And it was great to be the first American band. Well, we still are the first American group to go to Russia in 1977.
Yeah, let me ask you about that, John.
Fast forward to those connections to have the. We were recording Will the Circle Be Unbroken Volume 3, the third incarnation of that album in the year 2003, 10 years ago, and I saw that Tom Petty was recording down the hall, working on his album. So it was really fun to walk in to Tom Petty, who I don't know, he probably heard the name Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, but he didn't know anything about us. I wouldn't expect him to. But to be able to say, Mr. Petty, I was wondering, have you ever wanted to sing with Willie Nelson? And he goes, oh, yeah, that sounds like it would be fun. I said, well, come down the hall. And he came down the hall and sang on Goodnight Irene with Willie.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
It was really neat.
Let me ask you about that tour to Russia. And in 1977, it wasn't that far after the Cuban Missile Crisis in '63. There were icy relations between Russia and the United States. What was that like to tour the Soviet Union with kind of that cold feeling that maybe they didn't like Americans?
The governments have problems. The people are people. The people just wanted to be able to live a good life and raise their families and have things that made life good. And they were very curious about America. It was we represented, I think, a part of America that they could trust when people would ask us questions. We did 28 sold-out shows over a month's time. And I don't think he could have had a better audience. But yes, it was a very difficult time for them. Not all the people liked being Soviet Union members. Like the people in Latvia, you know, they would be very open about saying, we had our country taken away from us, and we're going to get it back. It was illegal for them to play their national anthem for 20 years. So I learned it on the banjo, and every night for 5 nights in the middle of our show, I would play the Latvian national anthem. And a couple thousand people on the floor of the building we were in didn't respond at all, but all the Latvians in the bleachers around the edge went crazy. That was really fun.
John, my favorite song. I was going to ask you about my favorite song. I want to get this in if I can. Is Mr. Bojangles, and that
one of mine too.
That song, for some reason, it just really plays to my heartstrings. It's got kind of a melancholy flair to it, and every time I hear it, I want to hear more of it. Give us the basis of where that song came from.
Well, according to Jerry Jeff Walker, the guy who wrote it, he told me that he was about 19 years old, traveling around the country, being a street performer, a busker. And he'd put his guitar out, and if people threw enough money in, he knew he could get dinner that night. No record deal or anything. Keep in mind, it was around 1965, 66, and his favorite town was New Orleans to do that in, because people were very friendly towards street performers. And one of the things about New Orleans is you had street performers on every corner. You had a trumpet player or a juggler or a sword swallower, a guitar player, a harmonica player, a dancer. And anybody that was dancing would call themselves Mr. Bojangles after the great Bill Robinson from the 1930s. Bill Robinson's the guy that danced with Shirley Temple in the 1930s movies. And one of the things that would happen in New Orleans is about every 10 or 12 days, Jerry said they'd arrest all the street performers and put them in jail for a night to get them off the street. And they could say, we've cleaned up the streets. So here he is in jail as a 19 or 20-year-old guy, and he's in a cell with a guy that called himself Mr. Bojangles. And that's when he started writing the song.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about, I met him in a cell in New Orleans. We were down and out. And what's funny is when we learned it off of 45 that Jerry Jeff had recorded, because Jeff had heard it one night on the way home from a rehearsal, came back the next day all excited about this song that he'd heard on the radio, and he'd only heard half of it, but one of the guys in the band actually had that 45 in his car for some reason. And he went in and learned it, but he learned the wrong words on part of it. He said, he sang the smoke ran out instead of spoke right out because it was hard to hear the scratchy 45. And it was, 60s, 70s, so you figured, he probably said the smoke ran out. And but he said spoke right out. Jerry Jeff told us a couple years later after we met him, and I said, I hope you don't mind those words being wrong. And he said, nope, still bought me a house. And he's pretty happy about it. So we put out our version of Mr. Bojangles, and it was on the charts for 34 weeks.
Oh, it was a great song. Great song. I've got to ask you, one of my favorite places to go and one of my favorite places to hear about is the Grand Ole Opry, because they say that once you've been on the stage of the...
Friday.
You're going again, my goodness, okay. What's it like to appear on the stage at the Grand Ole Opry?
It's like walking back into a piece of history of Americana, of something that I feel very fortunate to have that privilege to be able to go backstage whenever I want. I'm not actually booked to play. I called them up last week and said, hey, put me on the back door list. And, oh, sure. So I'm going to take a friend of mine that I play with a lot, and we're going to go hang out backstage at the Opry. And it's like watching an old film. It's like being a part of history. It's watching history. And when you perform on the Opry, it's in front of a great audience with perfect sound. All the musicians that are backing up people are the best in the business. And you can feel like you're standing on the same stage that Hank Williams or Loretta Lynn or any one of those people played on. And feel pretty lucky about it.
John, you have an excellent family. You've raised 6 children, 5 boys and a girl, as a matter of fact, according to the sheet and everything. But I want to ask you about families and being on the road. I've been in the rodeo business for 40 years, and that travel will get to you, and it's really tough to be on the road from one town to another, going from one motel to another situation. What would you attribute the success not only to the nitty-gritty dirt band, but also to keeping a family under those circumstances?
You try to keep in mind that if you're a cobbler or a guy that makes shoes and you are raising a kid, he might grow up in the shoe shop. Or if you're running a delicatessen, your kid might be working back at the counter. Or if you're anything that you're doing, if you allow them to be part of it and see what it is you do, then it's just what you do. And I tried to do my best of keeping up. I remember a time when my daughter was having trouble with algebra, so I bought a copy of her algebra book, and I was calling in from the road every night for about 2 months, going, okay, page 87. After a show. Fortunately, we'd be on the East Coast, and I could call in before she'd gone to bed. And you just try to keep up. When you're home, try and spend as much time with them as you can. Or if they're on the road at a show with you, you take them everywhere. In fact, I mentioned Sammy Hagar, and the time I met him, I was, the Dirt Band was playing, where was it? Omaha, playing a baseball stadium. We were opening for Sammy Hagar, and he had his son with him. He had his 10-year-old son, Aaron, with him, and I had my 11-year-old son, Aaron, with me. And it was really kind of fun because the two kids hit it off. They were playing backstage, and Sammy and I both went looking for our sons because they were there in a secure area backstage, and they were chasing butterflies, and says, hey, guys, how you doing? Oh, have you guys played yet? Yeah, we finished about an hour ago. They had no idea we were even working, And that's the way it should be. The butterflies were more important that day.
Absolutely. John, I'm sorry, go ahead. There's a lateness in the connection, so go ahead. I apologize for stepping on you. Go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. But my kids grew up around concerts and people that perform, and they realize what a hard job it can be, because people that go see a show, it's a wonderful thing that somebody might put that ticket on their refrigerator, and a month from now we're going to go see somebody. It's a wonderful thing that happens, but usually in this job, there's maybe 18 hours in a day that go by before you get to where you're going to do your concert.
Mm-hmm.
And then 18 hours can involve two plane flights and a 3-hour drive sometimes.
Absolutely.
There's been many times, even this year, where finally get to the hotel at 1 in the morning and have to get up at 4:30 to go to the airport to fly on 2 or 3 planes to get to the next town. But that's what that is. And that's an exciting thing, actually.
John, we're playing...
You never miss a show, and when you get there, no matter how tired you are, you look out there and you go, oh, these people want to hear Fishing in the Dark or Bojangles or
That's right.
all these things. Lucky they want to hear it.
I want to ask you this, as we're playing some of your songs in the background, but I want to ask you this question. You've been with some amazing personalities in music, whether it's Johnny Cash, whether it's Chris Christopherson, whether it's Kenny Rogers, etc. Have you ever thought about taking the time, sitting down at a typewriter or a great big 8.5 by 11 legal pad and writing a book about all the experiences and all the people that you've worked with and their personalities?
Well, if you go to my website or my Facebook site, you'll see a bunch of those stories. My mother thought of my website name. It's John McEwen. I added .com, and she said, who's Dot? But I post a lot of things on my website and Facebook that reflect that. And yes, I do have a book I've been working on for years, trying to tie together raising a family in the music business and doing... Hope you catch that plane flying over is kind of loud. And what that is all encompassed, because there's a lot of unusual things that happen.
Absolutely. Minidoka County celebrating their centennial celebration with a concert September 21st featuring the great Nitty Gritty Dirt Band at the Minidoka County Fairgrounds. John, I'm looking forward to having you there and meeting you, shaking hands with you, and listening to some great music. What can the folks expect to hear that night? Tell us, please.
You like bluegrass music?
Absolutely.
There's going to be some of that. You like hearing some songs you heard on the radio years ago and maybe haven't heard for a while, like American Dream or, Fishing in the Dark gets more play than American Dream now, but we are playing music from our whole 47-year span and trying to cover various points of it, various aspects of it, and it's the reason we're there, is to make people have a good time.
Well said.
And it's this particular show is everybody. We have to get in the night before and get up there. So it's taking 2.5 days to do this, to do our 2-hour show.
Well, we're certainly going to be there, and we're certainly looking forward to it. And, John, I appreciate the time you gave us this morning to come back on our program. God's blessings to you and the rest of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and we'll see you on September 21st. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Hey, we wouldn't be able to do these shows and play in this country if it hadn't been for a lot of things that a lot of veterans have done. And we very much appreciate that. And what I've heard is veterans are able to get in free to this show with ID that shows their situation.
All right, well, we'll keep amplifying that on our program and telling everybody about it every day. And, John, again, I'll look forward to seeing you on September 21st. Thank you again, sir, for coming on our show.
And you know something that I think should happen?
What's that?
I think that you should use your radio station to tell people of the Magic Valley there that they need to get that governor down there to see what you people have put together for this centennial celebration.
We will
have... Do you think the governor should be there? Is this an important enough event for him to come say hello?
I will call Butch's office, as a matter of fact, after this program, and I'll talk to John Hanyon. We'll get it set up, and I'll invite personally that Governor Butch ought to be there.
Well, what about if the people invite him? You got a lot of people listening that ought to drop an email or send a call and say, we're looking forward to seeing you.
We'll put it out there.
What's happening in our valley here.
Absolutely. It's a great idea, and we'll make sure that we put that on every program from now up until the 21st. Thank you so much, John. I got to run, but appreciate your being on the program this morning. John McEwen with the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Thanks, John.
Well, like I said to my mom, thanks for having me.
God bless you, sir. Thank you so much. Enjoyable man. And, boy, the memories that are there with the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. And, wow. Just to go through a list of everything they've done, everything they've accomplished, I couldn't possibly put it on in a 3-hour program. I mean, my goodness sakes, all the hit songs, but still, of all the songs, I love that, Mr. Bojangles. I'm going to impose on Gina if she's over. Gina, are you back in the studio?
No, I ran away again.
I figured it wasn't Scotty when you started talking again. I'm going to do the weather real quick. Michael Rogers' weather update brought to you this hour by our friends at Lennox Home Comfort Systems and, of course, with our great friends, Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. And then we'll come back. Could you possibly play just a little bit of Bojangles before we leave this morning? I'll be right back. Here's Michael Rogers with the weather.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Set up a brand spanking new week of you, me, and some nice, perfect, cool fall weather. Sunny today, 78 for the high. How about that? 54 for the overnight low, 81 for the high tomorrow. Got a chance of thunderstorms is going to be taking place on Wednesday going all the way through Friday. But what a nice day to start off the beginning of the work week with clear, sunny skies and nice, cool temperatures. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you this hour by Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Gas furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps. All your family will enjoy the comfort of Lennox. From Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Real quick, before we send it back and get Gina back on the air with us, I want to remind you about a huge tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, wow. I mean, they've got tires galore on sale right now. You better believe it. Let me tell you, they've got the light truck and SUV Wildcat AT2 on sale starting at just $117.15. You better check it out. And then also, they've got the passenger car tire called Strategy starting at just $89.48 with a 60,000-mile warranty. All of this and much more. The best in brake service, the best in batteries, the best in shocks and struts and front-end alignments, and always the best in service. From all 7 locations, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Lane and Rupert, John on Poline and Twin, and Randy on Overland and Burley, the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Whew, Gina, been a busy morning this morning. I know you had to sit in on a meeting. Could we possibly just listen to a little bit of Bojangles, and then I'll jump back in as we get closer to news time?
You got it.
Thank you. Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, Mr. Bojangles.
I knew a man, Bojangles, and he danced for you. Mr. Bojangles.
The Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. And our thanks again to John McEwen coming on the program, highlighting that they're going to be over at the Minidoka County Fairgrounds on September 21st with a great big concert on behalf of Minidoka County Centennial. Don't miss it. It's going to be great. I want to thank everybody for all your involvement this morning, your input, your calls, everything else. And don't forget, we're going to be back here in the saddle tomorrow morning at 8:06 and have an interesting program. And don't forget, Wednesday, we're going to have the remote broadcast at Ramsey Heating and Electric starting at 8:06. But get there early at 7 o'clock in the morning and have breakfast with us over at Ramsey's. And the net proceeds of that delicious George Mass breakfast will be the net proceeds, 3rd annual Zeb at the Ranch Christmas for Kids and the Youth for Liberty. So we'll see you on Wednesday morning. Until tomorrow morning right here in the studio, God bless, and the way things were are the way things ought to be. Thanks, Gina.